everyone. Did Laguerita70 help in the deportation of not one, but two of her partners? Let's get into the files today. I just got the grammar request back from Salt Lake City Police Department in reference to her first boyfriend, Carlos Ortiz, who was coincidentally deported shortly after the breakup in a very similar pattern, just like Fidel. We're going to be reading over the report. We're going to be going over the whiteboard. And we're going to be putting 2 and 2 together. So if you need help adding 2 and 2, call me, because that's what we're here to do. Okay, so I got the whiteboard ready to go. We're going to be recapping some of the information, but first we're going to go over the police report. We'll get started in just a couple minutes. I'll give everybody a chance to settle into the chat, grab your cafecito, and we'll be starting in just a few minutes. Okay, we're on. And while we're waiting, besties, as always, I'm going to drop the link in the chat for those of you that want to support my live streams through a membership, or if you want to start our live out with the first TTS. Your Baddies membership also gives you exclusive access to the 911 call, which has yet to become public in this series. Welcome, besties. Welcome. We have so much to cover. I'll be right with you. Hi, bestie. Thank you so much for the jewels. Where is my super chat? Did you guys see is my super chat working? All right, sorry, my super chat wasn't turned on. All right, besties, today we are back from recess. I know we spent the last couple of days going into the Julia Garcia files. I have a quick update on that just briefly for those of you that are in my membership. I did get an approval for the grammar request on the green card files. We should hear back from those towards the end of May. Today we're shifting gears back to Laguerita70. Thank you so much, Mrs. Pitia, for the gifts. I finally received the police report from the Salt Lake City Police Department in the Ortiz case. If you don't know who the Ortiz files are, raise your hand. I am going to do a quick recap of the whiteboard, and we're mainly going to be focusing in on this side of the board, which includes the relationship histories, and we're going to intertwine the deportations. So if you don't know who Carlos Ortiz is, he was Candace's first boyfriend at the age of 18. Well, first boyfriend after she had left her legal husband. And there were some things that we found in the public records search in regards to his arrest at her home that resulted in his deportation. So I'm going to quickly go over all of that and why we pulled these.
Elena Lozano 1150 has purchased a membership.
Welcome to besties, Elena and Frankie. Welcome, welcome. So a quick recap, right, of who everybody is. I just started classes in session. We were supposed to start at 5:30. I know I'm a little bit late, but I took the time to just set up off camera so we could dive right into it, because I know everybody is dying to go into the police report. So do you want to go straight into the police report, or do you want me to do a recap, or read the police report and then recap everything and then piece it together?
At Frankie Turner 56.
I know you guys are antsy. Police report first. Somebody send me a TTS and let me know how you want to do this. Hi from Cali, classes in session, locked in. We are gonna be doing whiteboard activities today. Police report. I'm on a 5-hour bus ride. I'm ready. Police report. Straight in. Most of you guys that are here already know what the police report is for. Okay, we're gonna do some updating to the whiteboard as well, because this series is going to tie in a lot of things. All right, so let me put this over here. Now, before I get into the police report, I do have to backtrack to the request for a PO and how we got to the police report. Just a little bit to the protective order, okay? Recap for new besties. The quick recap, and we're gonna do a lengthy recap. Don't worry, we have time. But the quick recap is that in our record search which hopefully some of you guys have watched previous episodes, but if you haven't, this is going to be the quick recap. In our public records search for Candace and Fidel's story, we found a request for a protective order that Candace filed in 2008 against a man named Carlos Ortiz. Now, we were really confused about him because we were like, who the hell is this Ortiz guy, right? Him. If she's married to Ferguson and claims she's been dating Fidel since 2008. So we've been able to put this timeline together that after she left her husband, she separated from him but did not divorce him. She moved in with a young man named Carlos Ortiz Torres. He was born in 1985, so this is the only person that she dated that was around her age. Okay, together they lived at Park Place Apartments from about 2007. Now, in January 4th of 2008, well, let me go forward a little bit more. In February of 2008, we found a case that I'm going to show you on the screen here. We found a case filed by Candace Smith on Carlos, a request for a protective order. Request for a protective order. Can you cooperate? Thanks. Okay. So she filed this in February of 2008. Keep that in mind. That's an important date. Filed in February of 2008. It was issued and granted to her temporarily, but eventually dismissed because she didn't serve him. Okay. Now, in her request for a protective order, she listed that she identified that Carlos was her ex-boyfriend and that they had lived together at Park Place Apartments, Building A. And she based her request for this protective order on an incident, on an arrest on January 4th that she told the courts was a domestic violence incident right here. Okay, so she says right after New Year's, and this is the address that it happened at in Salt Lake City, she specifies that he was arrested, and this is what he said. He became upset over my ex-husband contacting me. Who's the ex-husband? This guy. And it was still her legal husband, by the way. Okay, so she told the Salt Lake City court, and this is how she was able to obtain a protective order against Carlos. He became upset over my ex-husband contacting me. He broke my cell phone, punched a hole in the wall, and tried to break down my door. He also tried to overdose on cocaine. So that's what she said happened right after New Year's, and that he was arrested. So a public record search, we found that Carlos was indeed arrested at her house on January 4th, 2008, right here, okay? But the charge that we found was for forgery, not domestic violence. Are you with me now, class? Are you with me? So she reports to the courts that there was an incident of domestic violence that led to his arrest. And it was rooted, similar to the case with Fidel, where she mentioned that he was jealous over another man being involved. Okay. And she mentions that Carlos broke down her door, or tried to, punched a hole in her wall, and broke her phone. Okay, now let me set the stage. Somebody that's lived in Utah and also have had experience with reporting these types of disturbances. I once had something similar happen to me where my ex punched a picture frame on the wall and broke it. I called the police. By the time he had arrived, he had already left. Well, a few weeks later, he got a summons in the mail for a domestic violence charge in the presence of a child, because damaging property while you're fighting or whatever is considered domestic violence. You don't have to physically hit the woman or your partner for it to be considered domestic violence. So I can tell you that I was really confused, because based on what she reported, that the police showed up, this is what she told the court that granted the protective order, that he was arrested for domestic violence. Let me ask you a question. When you read, and this is what the judge in the protective order case read, when you read that he broke her cell phone, punched a hole in the wall, and tried to break in the door, and he was arrested. Do you not interpret that as this man was arrested for domestic violence against this woman, now requesting a protective order? Yes or no? Yes or no? I just need one yes or no. When you're reading this, does this not come off as this woman is a victim of domestic violence by this man? Okay, that's what she reported happened, and she makes it seem that this is why he got arrested. Well, we were very perplexed because when we looked up the booking sheet for that day, Carlos Ortiz was not charged with domestic violence. He was actually charged with possession, writing, or device, possession of a forged writing or device. So we looked up that case and we found that he was charged with being in possession of a false social security card, which didn't match what she listed in her protective order. So we pulled the police report. I want to see why they arrested him for that and not the domestic violence. Because even if he had been in possession of that social security card, she told them that he broke her phone and punched a hole in her wall. That was grounds for them to arrest him also for domestic violence and charge him. So why didn't they? Why does it seem like they arrested him for whatever they could, for being in possession of a social security card that wasn't him? Okay, now mind you, the date of this offense is January 4th, 2008. She filed for her request for a protective order on February 12th, a whole month and a week later. Now that's interesting. Why did you wait a month and a half? Well, let me show you, class. So, Carlos was arrested first. I'm going to get to the details of the report first, but let me set the stage, okay? He gets arrested without a warrant on January 4th, off probable cause. The DA has 3 days to file charges, and if they don't, they have to cut you loose. So he was booked into Salt Lake City Jail on January 4th, 2018. The DA did not file charges in time, and he was released on pre-trial release. Okay, I was trying to get you guys his mugshot. Well, his mugshot's over there on the whiteboard, right? So he was released in 3 days. Candace wasn't counting on that. That was an inconvenience to her. In 3 days after he bonded out, she mentions in the request for a protective order, Ortiz files, in her request for a protective order, she specifies that he has been calling me nonstop since Friday the 8th. He has also been watching my apartment. Now, he lived in this complex, mind you. I was walking home and he stopped me and told me I owed him money and that he was going to send and take care of me through his big bad friends. I pushed past him and ran to my apartment and locked myself in. So in her request for protective order, she presents to the court that he is stalking her after there was an incident of domestic violence and that she needs protection. Okay. And this happened, mind you, on the 11th, right here. The incident of when he ran up to her allegedly happened on the 11th, right after he bonded out of jail. Okay. He's charged on the 14th and a summons is issued. Okay. And on February 12th, weeks after both incidents, she requests a protective order. Ask yourself why a victim of domestic violence would wait a month and a half. If you're a victim of domestic violence, a victim of stalking, why did you wait 3 weeks to file a request for protective order unless you don't actually need the protective order for your safety? You need it for something else. Okay, so now let's get into the police report. Let's see what the police say actually happened. It's very short. Hold on. Bueno? Okay. Now, first, before I read this, we already had speculations that she called the police. We already had speculations because he was arrested in her apartment. Okay. The address of the arrest is her apartment and her apartment building. Some of this we've already went through in previous receipts. So here we go. Officer Connor and I responded to a possible domestic violence call at, here's the apartment address and the number, building K, remember A. As we approached, we could hear a male saying, "Just give me my money." The male was identified as AP Carlos Ortiz. I questioned Ortiz as to why he was there, to which he stated that his girlfriend, Comp is short for complainant in police reports. So this tells you that she called. And then they redacted her name. He stated that his girlfriend, Comp, redacted, had kicked him out the night before, and he was trying to get his money from her. Redaction agreed to give Ortiz his belongings. Now, I'm going to pause right there. The police make no mention of a broken door. The police make no mention that there's damage in the property, and they make no mention of her broken phone, just that she agreed to give him his property. After obtaining his things, Ortiz was going through them in the hallway with officers present. Ortiz was asked if he had any identification, to which he stated no. A social security card was in plain view in the backpack. When asked if it was a social security card, Ortiz said yes. Officer Connor asked to see the card and was handed the card by Ortiz. Ortiz was asked if it was real, to which he stated no. Ortiz was read Miranda and placed in handcuffs. Sergeant Hill performed the arrest check, and Ortiz was taken to jail. While in transport to jail, Ortiz stated that the card was not his. He responded that his name was on the card, it was in his possession, and that he had stated it was his. Ortiz responded by saying, "Oh yeah." Ortiz was booked into jail on one count of possession of a fraudulent document. So he was living with her in that apartment. She claims he got mad because she was still in contact with her husband, but you can tell that she had just kicked him out and he was trying to just get his things. He was trying to collect money that he alleged that she owed him. Now, this makes sense because remember, when he bails out, she says that he came to stalk me at my apartment, but he was actually trying to collect whatever money she owed him. Okay, so when this didn't work to have him put in jail because he was eventually released, then that's when she went to plan B, which was getting a protective order to avoid paying him whatever money he owed her. Now, I want you to understand that Candace is fully aware that her men's are undocumented. We know that she knows these are undocumented men. She knew Fidel was undocumented, likely knew Carlos was documented. So this gave to me, there was no domestic violence because it's not mentioned in the police report. If there had been damage to the property, if the door had been knocked down, if her phone had been broken, that would have been mentioned in this report, and that would have been a charge on him that night. So she exaggerated what she told the judge to obtain that protective order so he could no longer come near her to collect whatever money she owed him for whatever reason. They were a couple up until the night that she kicked him out. Who knows why she kicked him out? Because she told the courts that he became upset because her ex-husband was contacting her. Mind you, that was her legal husband. That the phone was broken, and so this doesn't make sense because he says he became upset over my ex-husband contacting me. He broke my phone, punched a hole in the wall, and tried to break down my door. But the police report clocks him already inside. So none of this matches up to a domestic violence call. This is giving, she used the police to get rid of him. And when that didn't work, she went to the courts. And then what ended up happening so in summary, he caught this charge because she called the cops to get him removed from the apartment that he was living in, mind you. This case resulted in a plea deal of him deporting. Okay, so his guilty plea for being in possession of that social security card included a plea deal to plead. They amended the felony to a Class A misdemeanor, and he pled plus self-deport. Plead and deport. So he was deported at the root of that call that Candace made. Now, that is strikingly similar to Fidel's case. Strikingly similar. Same thing happened. She calls, reports domestic violence. They come, they take him away. She washes her hands. She goes back to playing dress up. The only difference is that man she believes is the father of her child. So she's linked a little bit longer to him. And then she ends up, the face of deportation. So Carlos Ortiz, in my opinion, was set up. Based on what I read in that police report, there's absolutely no mention of domestic violence. It's giving, she called the police to remove him from her property. They were having some type of argument over money. She had kicked him out, and just the night before, and she acknowledges that they lived together. Priscilla, thank you so much for tipping $3.
You called it Annie.
Now notice that there is in the police report. The police report is actually a shitty report. I'm actually surprised at how little detail was included by this officer. He doesn't specify who opened the door. He doesn't specify what claims she made. This because the report focuses solely on the crime of the possession of the fraudulent card, right? This is not a domestic violence report. Belinda, thank you so much.
At Belinda Garcia 6110 sent $9.99 cheese Maybucks. What a snake. Snake emoji.
Also, it portrays that she was withholding his stuff until the police came. And then once she gave the stuff over, coincidentally, that fake social security card is in plain sight while he's organizing his stuff in the hallway. Right? So she kicks him out of their home. Now, my thought was, what money could he be claiming at the beginning of the month? It's January 4th. They likely just paid rent, and she just kicked him out on a dime the night before. So what money could he be trying to collect? My assumption is he helped her pay rent, or he had paid the rent, and then she kicked him out. And the apartment's under her name because he has no papers. So he's like, what the fuck, bitch? Fine, kick me out, but bring me my money. She owed him money for something. There's a reason he was adamant. He was trying, and if he's undocumented, that apartment's not under his name. So again, she's in the position of control because she knows this man can't even have, an apartment in his name. He don't have ID. He don't have nothing. So if I call the cops,
instant $5 cheese Maybucks. Justice for Carlos.
Yep. So as soon as he bails out, he goes back. And mind you, he lives in this apartment until he got deported in 2010 on that case. So in the request for protective order, she lists that he's living there in another building with his friends, right? So obviously he's going to be in the same vicinity, but she made it seem in the request for a PO that he was just waiting outside of her apartment, stalking her, demanding money. And let me read you what she told the judge. Again, on the basis of this request for a PO. When the jail didn't hold him, she went to plan B, which was getting a protective order. He has been calling my cell phone nonstop since Friday the 8th. We know he bailed out that day. He has also been watching my apartment. I was walking home when he stopped me. He told me I owed him money, that he was going to kill himself, and that he was going to send people to take care of me, and he also threatened to contact my family. Now, ask yourself why she would consider that a threat for him to contact her family. There was something going on that she didn't want to get out. Could it possibly be that she doesn't want them to know that she's dating him because she's still fucking legally married to Ferguson? Okay? So there's a reason why, again, read between the lines, why she interpreted him, he threatened to contact my family. Why would that be a threat if you guys are dating and living together? Because you're doing something that you probably weren't supposed to be doing with him, right? She then says, I pushed past them and ran to my apartment and locked myself in. My landlord has been walking me to and from my apartment since. He has sat outside of my building all night and continuously called my phone. The man is trying to collect money that's owed to him, right? She's making it seem like he's stalking her when he lives in the same complex. She then says he threatened to send his friends after me, contact my family, and off himself. And then the domestic violence incident. Thank you, Cookie.
At Cookie Yarner sent $5 cheese Maybucks. Yet. She claims you're dangerous and she's scared of you. No, Candace, we are scared of you and your white tears.
Okay, then broke my cell phone, punched a hole. DV, he specifies he became upset over my ex, contacted me. He broke my cell phone, punched a hole in my wall, and tried to break down my door. He also tried to OD on cocaine. Then she does specify right here. So in summary, she specified that he's living in building A right here. Building A with friends, you can find it between 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and she's living in building K. So again, or they were selling coke together, probably to her friend. There's information he knew that she didn't want to give back to his family, which is why she took that as a threat for him to contact her family. And she wanted the court to gag him and order him, stay away from my family, stay away from my apartment. Although there seemed to be some sort of unfinished business between the both of them, or links or finances, because mind you, they were living together up until she abruptly kicked him out the night before the arrest. So, in summary, class, this is a classic case of weaponizing the police against an undocumented man that she knew had no documentation, and the documentation he did have, she probably knew wasn't his. Probably had knowledge, just like when she called the police on Fidel, she told him, well, his real name is this, but he goes by this. Diego wasn't born yet. She didn't have the baby. This was in 2008. Diego was born in 2009. He was born in about a year later. So, during this time, who knows if she's already dating Fidel? I don't think so. The timeline we went through didn't include that, Fidel. Hold on, let me text Maya. Put also outside. He's throwing a fit in his room. Only if you can contact the ex. Hi, Francis got here. She prays on the document. So I just see the clear pattern that she called the police to get rid of him, not because she was in fear for her safety, not because of domestic violence happened. I believe what she claimed in the request for protective order is not the truth. I don't believe there was any domestic violence. Otherwise, the police would have arrested him for it. If he had damaged her property in the middle of a dispute, that is considered domestic violence. It is. He doesn't have to hit her. So if she calls because he allegedly was kicking down her door and broke her phone, which how did you call the police if you broke your phone? But I digress. And if he had broken her phone, that is an additional charge. I went through this as well, where I had an ex that broke my phone. Interfering with being able to call 911 is, I believe, another felony, but that's a charge in itself. So what she says happened in her request for protective order would have had that man seriously charged by saying, and unfortunately, due to the time, she was lucky on this one, the 911 call recording does no longer exist. So we are solely going off of the police report, which unfortunately the police report only focuses on the possession of the false social security card. The only mention of domestic violence is we responded to a possible domestic violence. What does that tell me? She called and reported domestic violence. When they arrived, there was no domestic violence. Otherwise, they would have followed the protocol.
Nation89's E8Z sent $10 cheese Maybucks. Candace is #LaViewDebunking, but instead of offing them, she deports them, lol.
If there had been any mention of domestic violence, they would have been forced to follow domestic violence protocol. You issue a domestic violence victim packet, you issue a case number, you have to notify the victim that he's been booked, that he's being released. There's an entire protocol for domestic violence situations. So this tells you we responded to a possible domestic violence call. We know she's the complainant, so she called and said there was domestic violence happening, and I can only assume, giving her the benefit of the doubt, she told them what she told the judge. That he's going crazy because my ex, he's broken my cell phone, he punched a hole in my wall, please come and help me, please come and take him, I'm afraid for my safety, right? White woman tears, white woman tears. They show up and there's no mention of domestic violence. She lied. She lied to get the police to come out and take him. She knew what would happen. If that social security card hadn't been found on him, they would have just helped. It would have been a keep the peace call where they're helping him get his stuff and ushering him off the property. And I believe she set him up with that social security card. She had knowledge of it. We'll never know. That's an assumption that I'm making off of the facts that I have and off of the history that I've researched on this woman. But yeah. In summary, he was arrested. It's the same shit. Compare the two cases. She calls, reports domestic violence. The police show up. They take her word for everything. They take them, and she gets rid of them. And then when that didn't work, well, she went a step further, and she tried to get the protective order. And it was issued, mind you. But she was stumped because she wasn't able to serve him. Her dad was working for Highway Patrol at the time. I did study the police report before we got on because I wanted to see, is there, like, it lacked a lot of context. There's very limited information about her in the report. Besides the fact that ex-girlfriend kicked me out, she's the complainant, and you know what they heard when they were walking up to the apartment. But mind you, this is the case that she got a protective order on. Now you would never know that one case has to do with another unless you piece things together like we did, because she's not really mentioned here. In this case is not about domestic violence, it's about a fake social security card. Pero cuando le conviene, it's about DV. But when it's not, I don't have anything to do with it. He was arrested for a fake social security card. So at her convenience, the context of the incident changes. When I'm going to the court, it's this. But otherwise, I have nothing to do with it. I'm not named. He was arrested. Why didn't she give a statement about the DV the same way she did with Fidel? Remember that with Fidel, she wrote an entire statement about what happened and to press charges. Why is there no domestic violence statement here when she's citing domestic violence in her request for a protective order? The protective order was issued on a temporary ex parte basis, which means that because they believed she could potentially be at risk, they issued it without notifying him. Now, then she has to serve him with it and summon him to court so that he can have a chance to be heard. She was never able to serve him, so eventually it gets dismissed. But that's crazy because he lived in her same complex until he got deported in 2010. We confirmed that also through public record searches where he had additional citations, DUI, and he was clocked living at that address. So my suspicion is they got back together for some time. They got back together. They were living in the same apartment. She let the PO go because if this was all true and this man had been stalking you and he's living in the same apartment and you're afraid for your safety, wouldn't you follow through with the PO? And it should be simple to serve him because he lives there. She knows he lives there. But it gets dismissed. And the next time we hear about Carlos Ortiz is when he gets arrested for a DUI and he gets deported in 2010. So she was still living in the apartment during the time that she conceived Diego. Yes, she was. We matched. Do you want to go through? Let's go through the whiteboard again. All right, really quick. Hopefully you guys can see. Okay, we're not really going to focus on this half. We're going to focus on this half. Okay, so she moved to Salt Lake in 2007 where she married Brian. Okay, June 2007. She separates from Brian in October of 2007. And they divorced later in 2012. But before she divorces him, she moves immediately into Park Place Apartments with Carlos Ortiz, who's about 18, 19, around her same age. Okay, now in January 4, 2008, we know that they're living together, at least up until that date. This is when he gets arrested. He gets arrested. She files for the protective order in 2012. It's issued, but eventually dismissed. We don't hear from him again in the courts until 2010, where he's arrested for a DUI because he had gone AWOL. I'm going to have to do another. I'm gonna have to do a timeline on his cases. Not today. Maybe later, because first I want to regroup from this. But so anyway, we don't hear from him until 2010. But let's go down to Candace's address history. So she's in Salt Lake in June 2007. As of February 2008, we clock her at the same apartment because she requests that PO. She had been there probably at least a few months prior, because how long were you living? Did you know him before you moved in with him? We don't know. Anyway, in September of 2009, after all this happens with him, she gets a speeding ticket. And mind you, in September of 2009, she's about 6 months pregnant, and the speeding ticket has the same address. My hand! Anyway, it has the same address where he was arrested. So I can confirm that she lived in his apartment complex all the way until September 2009, which she was 6 months pregnant up until that date. She eventually moves out of their complex and moves back home to have the baby. But he's living in that complex until November 2010 when he's deported. So she stayed living in the same complex as them. Were they living together? Was he living at his friend's house? Who knows? But she didn't follow through with the PO, and they were in close vicinity when she meets Fidel in November 2008, gets knocked up, and then we know the rest of the story. So as far as Carlos and Fidel, which is what I wanted to focus on today with the police report, their arrests are identical. They both happened in her apartment. They both happened because she calls and reports domestic violence. In the case with Carlos, there was no domestic violence mentioned in the police report. So I'm just going to go by the facts. She lied or misrepresented things, because when the police arrived after she called them on January 4th, there was no domestic violence. There's no mention of the broken door. There's no mention of any property damage, and there's no mention of her broken cell phone. They simply were there to keep the peace. He was there trying to pick up his stuff after she kicked them out. She called the cops trying to get rid of him, and then he gets arrested in the process for a fake social security card that happened to be out in plain sight after she let him pick up his stuff in her apartment. He is arrested, eventually deported. Same thing happened to Fidel. The only difference is Fidel didn't speak English, so we don't have his side of the story. But Fidel gets arrested in her apartment because she calls the cops and reports domestic violence. He never gives his side of the story because he doesn't speak fucking English. They take your word for it, they arrest him, and they deport him. Both fucking cases are identical. She calls the cops, reports DV. She knows that they're both undocumented. She knows the apartment's in her name. He's trying to pick up money that he owes her. And mind you, when she gets him arrested and he bonds out 3 days later, goes back to the apartment trying to pick up the money that he says she owes him. Instead of paying him, what does she do 3 weeks later? Because this didn't work and they didn't keep him in jail, she heads to the court, files a protective order on him so that he can't go near her, he can't call her family, and she don't have to pay him whatever money he says she owes him. So both cases are the same, identical. She weaponized the system against him and against him. The only difference is with him, she believed that he was the father to her baby. So she ended up following him, and you guys know the rest of the story. Sorry, can you guys see? And yeah, we're gonna get rid of this side of the board, and I'm gonna do a timeline on all the cases and the arrests and stuff, but they're identical. They're identical. Also, my pointer broke. Is Carlos the pappy? Hey, where is my Starbies? Oh my gosh, I never ordered! Please. I forgot to hit checkout on my coffee. I wonder if he wanted bail money. No, because he was asking for his money before he got arrested. My assumption is because he claims that he kicked her out the night before and he was there to pick up his stuff. And when the officers walked up to the apartment, they could hear him say, "Just give me my money," which that tells me he wanted to leave. He wanted to leave, but she had something that he wanted or thought was his, so he wouldn't leave. So she called the cops, reported domestic violence, so they would make him leave.
At Frankie Eggy sent $4.99 cheese Maybucks. Canned ice is not an ally to the deported community. She's a predator. She's dangerous. She should be known for deporting immigrants. Seneca Hypocrita.
I can tell you that during her time in Utah, she weaponized status on 2 individuals. Absolutely. That is my firm belief, and that is what the police reports support. Drug money, who knows? I mean, my assumption is going to be rent money because think about it. They've been living together. It's the 4th of the month. She kicked him out the 3rd. She says right after New Year's. I'm assuming if they live together, they probably pay bills together, pay rent together. So I could assume maybe he's trying to get that rent money back, or she owed him something for something else. We don't know, but that tells me he was trying to leave. He was trying to leave, but she wasn't giving him his stuff, whether it was money, belongings. And then when the police arrived, then she agreed to let him get his things. And as he's in the hallway, probably trying to see if all his stuff is there, she made sure to include that social security card, and the cop caught eye of it. Isn't that a little bit of a coincidence that as he's organizing his things that she probably handed to him with the cops there, the social security card is out in plain sight? I'm going to say she set him up, but she knew. She knew what position that man was in. She knew what position Fidel was in both times she called to report domestic violence. And I'm gonna die on this hill, but she lied about Ortiz. There was no domestic violence. Otherwise, it would be noted in the police report. That was not and they said we responded to a possible domestic violence call. Why? Because that's what the caller reported, and they identified the girlfriend as a complainant. And then when that didn't work, she took a step further. All right, the cops didn't take care of him. Let me go to the courts. Let me get a protective order, and I'm going to tell the court that he did that to me when they came and they arrested him. Now, mind you, she didn't know the entirety. She didn't know the details of this case, and let me tell you why. Okay, so this is just during the arrest. Let's read the rest of the report. Follow up, they released him on January 4th, it says. Or related date, no, sorry. So let me read you the follow-up. So they arrest him and they book him into jail on the 4th. The follow-up is AP Carlos was being detained for a possible domestic violence situation. Ortiz was unable to provide documentation for identification. Ortiz was going through his backpack and a social security card was visible. Ortiz was asked if the card was his, to which he stated yes. He was asked if officers could look at the ID. Ortiz handed the ID to officers and the ID appeared to be fraudulent. Officers asked Ortiz if the ID was fake, to which he stated yes. He wasn't very smart, all right? Follow-up, on January 8th, mind you, that's 4 days after his arrest. In the state of Utah, you have 3 days, 72 hours to file charges, or you got to cut him loose. On January 8th, a screening packet will be submitted to the Salt Lake County DA office for this case. Based on the OFC's statements and observations and the AP's post-Miranda statements, charges will be screened against the defendant. The charge being screened is 1 count of felony possession of a forged writing, the social security card, redaction. Included in the screening packet is a copy of the forged social security card and a copy of the fax letter sent from the Social Security Administration office. So they couldn't charge him right away because they needed to confirm that it was fake. So they had to reach out to the Social Security office and get documentation that they said this is a fake Social Security card. That's why they had to cut him loose. So then, on January 8th, upon review of the facts of this case, the Salt Lake County DA office issued a warrant information for the AP. AP is a defendant. The warrant information is for 1 count of felony through possession of a forged writing with a bail amount of $5,000. The court case number is blah, blah, blah. The warrant information was signed by the 3rd Court District Judge. The warrant information was served on the defendant at the Salt Lake County Jail. On January 14th, this case will be closed with patrol OFC arrest. So he was still in jail on the 8th. And that's when he bonded out, because look, if you look at the case history, this is the case history. State of Utah, it was filed on the 8th, right here. Filed on the 8th. And his initial appearance was the 9th. And he bailed out on the 10th. Around that time. So around the time that she says he's been blowing me up since the 8th. Ask yourself why he was blowing her up since the 8th. The 8th is when they served him with a copy of the warrant, a copy of the charges. So he's in jail. They give him a copy of the charges, and then that's when he starts blowing her up. There's a correlation there. Anyway, then the reason she didn't know about what was going on with this case, look here. Complainant or victim notified? No. Why didn't they notify her? Because she's not a direct victim of this crime. This wasn't processed as domestic violence, so they weren't obligated to treat this as domestic violence or notify her of his charges or his arrest or his release. Otherwise, this would state yes. Here, it also tells you that the case was handled by the Financial Crime Squad. And yeah. Family notified? No. No next of kin. So he had no family, at least in the area. Okay, so I want you to ask yourself, she's living with this man. Do you really think she doesn't have knowledge of what his legal status is? That he doesn't have a proper identification? How is he making income if he's undocumented? They're living together, mind you. If you're living together, it's a pretty serious relationship, enough that you're going to know these basic information about your partner. Why you work here, why you don't work over there, why you don't have a driver's license, why you don't have proof, why you have a fake social security card. She knew. Just like, remember when she interviewed her friends on the Fidel relationship, her friend said, yeah, remember one of the first things you told us was that he didn't have papers. Right? She knew. She knew she was in a position of power and advantage due to their status, because guess what? The only man she dated in Salt Lake City that didn't end up with charges due to her calling the cops is the white man with papers. So if you think there's any doubt in your mind that this was a coincidence, just remember that the only white man she dated is the only one that got off without any charges. The two undocumented Mexicans that dated her both ended up catching a case at her house because of her call to the police. And the only one that got away is the white man, scot-free. And he probably should have been the one with the case, being that he married her at the age of 31 when she was 18. The one that should have ended up with some type of case was probably the white man. If we're gonna, if I'm being a Judge Judy here, it should have been him. Probably should have been him. Is there a chance she might have helped me with that fake? Who knows? And the white man should have been charged. But mind you, this is now the same woman that's crying about how hard deportation was and our family and this and that. She was behind the phone call to both men that landed them in deportation proceedings. I wonder if she ever called the cops on Brian. Doubt it. Brian, there's a reason she never challenged Brian. And you can tell she didn't. That's why she left him. And both other cases, also compare what she notes about both cases of DV. She tells the court that Carlos became upset over her ex-husband calling her. And in Fidel's case, she tells the police that Fidel became upset because another man showed up to help her with her broken down car. So both situations are identical, down to the root, down to what she's reporting and how she's reporting it. Like, she couldn't call and come up with a different story. Like, he got pissed off because I forgot to pay the bill. Something. She reports that both of them assaulted her or were violating or domestic violence because they were jealous of her talking to somebody else. That's not a coincidence. These cases are fucking identical. I tell you, identical. And now she claims Salt Lake City PD is crooked, but when she was using them as a personal security, she loved them. When did she claim they were crooked? Oh, yeah. Well, she didn't say Salt Lake City Police, but in her narration of Fidel's deportation, she does imply that he was targeted, that there was no need for them to even pull him over. She makes statements implying that even down to the domestic violence, that I wasn't even a willing participant. Like I wasn't even a willing witness, a cooperating witness, but they charged them anyway because in the state of Utah, I mean, come on, it's the state of Utah, right? She implies that it was the state, that it's the state's fault, when she's the one fucking calling them. Now, when I first got the 911 call in Fidel's case, I felt empathy for her and I believed her. And I didn't publicize it out of respect for a victim of DV. I didn't publicize it because I felt like, what necessity is there for this to be public? I'm sure this is traumatic to her. I believe she lied. I don't believe in. So anyway, in summary, I'm going to publicize that call once I get it back with unredactions. And we will be able to compare. I was hoping to get back a little bit more from the Ortiz case, but unfortunately it's been almost 18 years. The only record that exists is the police report. I was hoping to get the 911 call so we could hear what she told them and compare it to what she told the police when she called them on Fidel. Now, we know that when she called the police on Fidel, she told them a lot more, that he punched her in the face. And she was visibly she was emotional. The cops even said that there was, it appeared she had just been socked in the face, and perhaps she did. Who knows? We'll never know because we weren't there. But that case hits a lot different now that I've looked at the Ortiz files. I'm questioning her credibility as a victim of domestic violence because she lied in the Ortiz case. She reported domestic violence and there was no domestic violence when the police arrived. But when she reported, now pay attention to this. When she reported, the domestic violence in the Ortiz case, she just said that he broke property. Okay? And she knew he wasn't charged with domestic violence. She had to have known because eventually they talked. When she called it on Fidel, she went a step further and said, he hit me. So there was an escalation. Do you get what I'm trying to get at? That when she tried it the first time with Ortiz, it didn't stick. The DV didn't stick. She did stick him with other charges, but they didn't mention the DV at all unless it didn't happen. But when she called the cops on Fidel, she took it a step further and reported that she was actually hit. This time it wasn't just a broken phone or a broken door. It was me. I was hit. The police responded different in that case, right? When they showed up to the apartment with Ortiz, it was pretty much just to keep the peace. Let him get his stuff. We'll be out of your way. We'll make sure he doesn't come back. We'll issue him a warning not to come. And again, the police report is missing a lot of context of the interactions with her because they just focus solely on the investigation of the Social Security card. They didn't process that as a domestic violence call. Otherwise, there would be a lot more information about what she reported, what they saw, come in, all of that. That they're coming. So, tell Maya. Maybe Ortiz and Fidel were also fighting about who the real Tao was. I mean, we don't know. But she did live in that apartment complex until right before she had the baby. And yeah, Fidel couldn't defend himself. Fidel didn't even speak the language, so we never got his version of events. He couldn't confirm or deny if there had been another man there. He couldn't corroborate any part of her story. They just took her word for everything because she had, it looked like she had been hit, like she had swelling or whatever on her face. So, in summary class, we were right. Yeah, we got the files. They're on YouTube. She learned how. Yep. Ortiz was her first one. But mind you, he still got deported. He ended up deported, and then she washed her hands of him. She didn't have to deal with him anymore because he was gone. And then that opened the way for her to be with Fidel with no issues, no crazy ex-boyfriend, no nothing. No, is it my baby? Is it his baby? Think about it. She got rid of Ortiz with that phone call to the cops. She did the same thing with Fidel. And maybe with Fidel, she didn't think it out. Maybe she was just mad, whatever reason they fought over. But remember, there's two versions of that story as well. The one she told the cops when she called, and the one she told social media in front of Fidel. In front of Fidel, she says it was both of our faults, no big deal, blah, 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 right? But the police, and notice how the context of the domestic violence changes depending on who she's telling the story to, both in the Ortiz case and the Fidel case. In the Ortiz case, she tells the court all of this happened, and he did this and blah, blah, blah. But mind you, she waited. The fact she waited almost a month to get that protective order is very telling. It tells you, this didn't work, so I'm going to go over here. Now, in the Fidel case, she told the cops one story, and then she tells us in front of him another story. So which is it? Which is the real story? Were you hit? Does Fidel know that you told the cops he hit you in the face? Because he couldn't understand ni papas when the cops showed up. He couldn't. All he said is that they got into a fight. So I believe the version of the story that she has told him is the one she told YouTube. I was not a cooperating witness. There's a reason she said we were both responsible. There's something she did. There was something she did that had to do with whatever happened. But when the cops were called, it was all him. He's just jealous because my friend came to help me fix my car and blah, 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 blah. Who said you can't spell Candace without ice? Mm-hmm. Would you be able to tell a DV story next to your abuser like that? She did, because I could not. That's a good point. Maybe still being with him, she can't tell the rest. I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't be telling the story with him.
2604 has purchased a membership.
Welcome, Mr. Mantica. I feel like me personally, you would never see me sitting next to him telling the story. Because I just couldn't. I just wouldn't. So I honestly can't answer that, because I would never be in that situation where he's sitting next to me when I'm telling you the story, because he would never get next to me after what he did to me. But I also understand that all women process DV different. I was curious, but also maybe he doesn't know. I don't believe he knows the version of it. I don't believe he knows the legalities, like what's on paper. I don't believe he knows her cooperation. I don't believe he's ever heard the call. I don't believe he knows what actually happened on paper. Only they two know what happened in real life, right? But the version of events, I don't think he knows the way she flip-flopped legally at all. I don't think he knows her history with Carlos, or that she did the same thing to him. And I'm sorry, but that's just not a fucking coincidence that two men with exactly the same storyline, the exact same way, arrested at her house upon her call, alleging domestic violence. They're both undocumented, and they both end up deported. Come on. What is the new info? The new info is the Ortiz files. So I reached out to the other police department that is working on the unredacted version of the 911 call and the police report in the Fidel case. We received, let's see, what was the mayor's name? So the appeal was approved. Isabel, thank you for the gifts. Absolutely not a coincidence. And now the face of deportation. So on the 27th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Tomorrow's the 10th day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, the 10th business day is on Monday. The 10th day is tomorrow. Come in. So we're very close to getting the files. Thank you. So when we receive the unredacted files, I'm going to share them publicly as well, including the 911 call. She's seen how easy it was the first time, so she did it again. I am one and done kind of girl. Hopefully not even one.
At
Same.
Belinda Garcia 6110 cent $4.99 cheese Maybucks. Deporter in chief. Lock and ice.
Thank you, Belinda. Honestly, yeah. You can't tell me that shit's a coincidence. And then to add insult to injury, now you're taking interviews about how hard deportation was on your family. Adding insult to injury after the weaponization of the court system, authorities, and their immigration status, and cheating somebody and using it as a way not to pay somebody. To add insult to injury, you're now representing the struggle of deportation and family separation. There's got to be a cool place in hell for people like that. What is cheese bucks? Cinderella on YouTube asked, or Cinderella on TikTok asked, what is cheese bucks? With the straight face and tears included and all. Yeah. How many times has she cried in her content talking about how hard things were, or like remembering things? Like, I specifically remember one TikTok I saw early on before anything happened, and I wish I had it, but I don't think I could go this far, where she said, I feel like the United States turned their backs on me and my family. And she said it with, tears in her eyes and her voice cracking and shit. Hazme el pinche favor. The U.S. turned their back on you and your family. You turned your back on your man, bitch, and that's why he ended up deported. And then you're somehow making it that the system did you wrong, when the system did what they were supposed to do. They did what you wanted them to do, was get rid of these men. Take these men from my apartment and don't let them come back, knowing that they were undocumented. Be so for real. It's not rocket science. Even back then, you call the cops on somebody without papers, like, you're bound to get them into some shit. Mind you, Fidel was what year? 2012. Who was in office in 2012? 2008 was Obama. He was express deporting people, and that's why they call him deporter in chief. Okay, so during both of the times where she's reporting to law enforcement, there's a lot of politics going on about deportation. So you can't tell me it was something she didn't know would happen, or it wasn't that bad back then. Yeah, it wasn't maybe as bad as right now, but it was a topic out there. 2008 was Obama, and then 2012 was... Well, who was 2012? Was it still? It was still Obama. Obama was in office both times. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, and he was numbers were at an all-time high back then of deportations. You're gonna tell me you were dating two undocumented men and were completely just fucking clueless as to what would happen when you called the cops on him? Mind you, she called the cops on Ortiz because she wanted him out of her apartment. Who hasn't done that? I've seen a lot of people. A lot of women have done that. There's been times when I was fighting with Walter one time when he punched the fucking hole in the picture frame. I called the cops to make sure he didn't come back. I did it too. We know what the fuck was gonna happen. We know what it was. We're not clueless. Se aprovechó de ellos. Yeah, se aprovechó. She knew she was in a position of control over both of them. And there's a reason why, Ortiz was telling her, just give me my money. I'll go. Just give me my money. She was like, oh, you're going to go anyway. Bet. 911, I have an emergency. This man just broke my phone. He's being very violent. He's a dangerous hombre. Can you come take him? Yes, ma'am. We'll be right there. He said, just give me my money. Just give me my shit. Oh, you're going to leave anyway. Watch this. Cops show up. They made him leave. She didn't pay him. And they took him to jail. That's the ultimate power move. De que te vas, te vas. Sorry, let me not ASMR my K-pop. How many times did she call 911 to her advantage? Well, we have at least 2 concrete cases where she utilized law enforcement to get rid of these men, to have the men removed from her home. You didn't think to call your dad first, or like, I don't know. It was all straight to the cops, straight to 911. Straight to 911. Yeah, so I don't know. When I first got the report back from Fidel, I had a lot of empathy for her, despite the series. Like, I was like, damn, this is crazy. Like, this is sad. You know, this must be shitty, whatever. I don't think it happened. I don't know. I don't believe her. I see her in a different light now. I don't see this as like an isolated incident where like, damn, they were going through some shit. He fucked up. She reported it as she should. I don't see it that way anymore. I see it as the manipulation and weaponization of authorities against undocumented men. I don't have that like, pobrecita, like she went through this too, like, you know, solidarity. No, I see this as a white woman knowing exactly what the fuck she was doing, calling 911, using them to her advantage because she was pissed off at them or she wanted to get rid of them. Te vas porque yo quiero que te vayas al momento que yo que te tengo. Yeah, te vas porque yo dije que te vas. And you're not getting your shit. And notice, like, she agreed to give him his stuff when the cops showed up. Why was he in the apartment? If she had already kicked him out the night before, how did he get in the apartment? What's he doing in there? She let him in. They're having a conversation. Something's going on. A disagreement ensues, and then it's, get out. I will, but give me my shit. No, just fucking get out. Give me my shit. No, fucking get out or I'm gonna call the cops. All right, you're not gonna leave? Bet. You're gonna leave anyway. And she called the cops and he's in the apartment until the cops get there. So it wasn't even like, I don't think he saw it coming. I don't think he thought he would get arrested, because if he had actually, like, you know, done what she did, why would he have stuck around for the police to get there? She says that he was being violent, broke her shit, threatened to off himself, that was being crazy. Okay, so she calls the cops while he's in the apartment with her. Why would he stick around? Why would he not do what Fidel do and take off? He's there up until the cops get there, and when the cops get there, they hear him say, just give me my money. Just give me my money. And I'll leave, probably. Just give me my money tells me, like, just give it to me and I'll get out of here. The cops hearing him ask for his money is very telling, because when he gets out 3-4 days later, he comes back and is after that money. And then she says that he's stalking me. He's saying he's going to send his big bad friends after me, and I'm scared, and this happened, and now I need a restraining order.
At Elia Puma sent $4.99 cheese Maybucks. Have we all seen the makeout sesh and the call to toward a doggy on Bam Bam? Rolling on the floor laughing emoji. Rolling on the floor laughing emoji.
I did see it. Dana, thank you so much, bestie. Thank you so much, Tina. Shout out to you.
Atinat661 has just tipped $49.99 through Super Chat. She wasn't afraid. This was the beginning of her mo.
I believe so too. So, and the question is, you think she ever paid him? I do think they got back together after this for some time, which is why she dropped the PO. Most women in that situation that are real victims of DV, that are actually being stalked, that are actually afraid for their safety, will see that PO through. The fact that she went to get the PO and then never saw it through tells you she didn't get it for safety or because she was in fear or because she needed it for her protection. She got it for an ulterior motive, to keep him away from her, because I don't want to come back for that money, but it had nothing to do with the DV. I believe she exaggerated what happened so the judge would grant it to her. And at the time, I don't think she was aware of what charges had been filed, if any, or if, who knows, but she just says that he was arrested. So she believed that he got arrested over what she said to the, who knows. But the way she wrote out the request for a PO, it was presented like he got arrested for domestic violence against her, which was not, which was a lie. Right. Would, if he's stalking you, would you stay living in the same apartment complex for a whole year? Would he stay there? I think they rekindled, or they made up, or they called it cool, or something. Shout out to Tina for always making it rain. Absolutely. Thank you, Tina. She be carrying these lives on her back sometimes. I appreciate you so much. Yep. Are you guys surprised? Is this not what I speculated and predicted was in this report? From the moment I saw that his charges were not for domestic violence, I was like, wait a minute. I knew it. I called it. White chicks are hypocritical, talk shit, or get down on the she could have broken her lease. I mean, she had the help from her mom. She says that in her response to a civil suit from the bank, that her mom was helping her pay her rent, etc. So now we're waiting for the last piece of the puzzle, which is going to be the unredacted 911 call, the unredacted records. And the police report from the Fidel case redacted why they were fighting and what she did immediately when she got into the apartment. But what I'm really after is that 911 call. I want to hear exactly what she reported. I want to hear her throw Fidel under the bus. His real name is this, redacted. What did she say in those 2 minutes? His real name is this. He's undocumented. He's been reported before. He's so whatever, blah, 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 blah. I think she threw him under the bus. Absolutely. You should have been a damn detective. I am. So how have we pedestaled her? How is she representing the struggle of family separation and deportation when she's the one making the call for that to happen? Why is she crying about Diego not having his dad when she's the one that threw him to the dogs? Not one, but two. That's no fucking coincidence. 2 men. And why did she keep dating undocumented men? Where the fuck was she meeting them? Where did she pick up her victims? Maybe in the apartment complex? Because she was living in the hood. And, you know, I know that her audience is going to defend her to the death and be like, this was so long ago. This is so relevant to her current storyline. For her to get up in front of national cameras and give interviews on deportation and, you know, try to help families and inspire them and lend them a hand and show you what life is like in Mexico. What the hell, Leonte? You literally are the, like, you're the... She's a Trumper. I'm sorry. This is Trumper behavior. Tell me this is not Trumper behavior. At least while she lived in the United States. She was reporting like a Trumper, calling like a Trumper, exaggerating like a Trumper, and weaponizing statuses like a Trumper. Now all of a sudden, she's for the people, and she doesn't agree with politics, and my family was separated. She put that in motion for her own family and somebody else's. We don't know much about Carlos. We don't know what he did after he broke up with her. We don't know if he had kids up there. We don't know if he had family. We don't know what happened to him. We can't follow up to what his life ended up like, but he ended up deported over that call she made when he was just trying to get his things out of her house and get money that she owed him. They were living together, mind you. So it's normal for him to have a claim to what's in the apartment, or, you know, it's not uncommon for couples to fight about material things when they break up, especially when you kick him out overnight. Hey, I've done it. I would get pissed off. Get the fuck out. This is my house. Been there, done that, which is why I can tell you that's exactly what she did. House is under my name. You got to get the fuck out. So let's not be above it and act like we were just this white little dove and I met Fidel. Now, tell me how her story hits. I met Fidel at the age of 18. We've been together since. Never acknowledged it. And when people are like, what? She doesn't have to tell us everything. That's fine. But why tell us a fucking story that didn't happen? And the story that did happen is like black and white to the story that she told us happened. She has sold to news outlets, to social media, that she met Fidel when she was 18. And she got pregnant shortly after, and they had a baby, and they had some issues, some hard times, and then they chingar for their marriage. They chingar for nuestro matrimonio, and then he gets deported on his way to work, a hardworking man that worked 12-hour shifts, and now I'm here, now I'm here. Okay, so you just gonna skip over Carlos? He didn't matter? You gonna skip over Ferguson? You just gonna skip over all this crazy shit that happened? That's fine. That's fine. You could have just told us you met Fidel when you were 20 or 19 or whatever the fuck. But she specifically took it back to 18 to wipe out her history and present herself as this chaste, modest, one-man type of woman, although she was messy as fuck. She told people her name is Garcia Sanchez, so nobody would ever look up Smith. Because the Smith files are diabolical, bitch. The Smiths, her real name would have tied you back to all of this. She gave multiple interviews where she specifically said she was using a different alias for the safety of her family because she had received death threats on social media. Be so for real. She appropriated our culture, our trauma, his story, and his fucking last name, so people can't pull up the Smith files. And that's why she tells people her name is Candice Garcia Sanchez. Her name is Candice Smith. Candice Smith. And the Smith files go fucking crazy, yo. The Smith files gave us a 2-month series digging into these motherfuckers. The Smith files led us to Ortiz, her first victim. The Smith files led us to Ferguson when she was, in a questionable relationship. The Smith files led us to the court order against her mom, directing her not to let her have any contact with this 30-year-old man that was in the middle of a divorce trying to date a 16-year-old girl. The Smith files led us back to all of it. The Smith files led us back to her living in Fidel's brother's apartment. The Smith files led us back to her and having paternity issues between two men. The Smith files led us back to the welfare queen, single mother with no help queen, claiming that Fidel helped her get through school. The Smith files led us everywhere but to a fucking MBA, bitch. The Smith files have led us to everything but the story that she told, including that MBA. Shit don't exist. And now you see why her and Julia got along. They have a lot in common. Beginning with that, getting married off to a 31-year-old when they were just minors. I forgot about the MBA. We forgot about the MBA because we've never fucking seen it. We forgot about the MBA because it doesn't... Look, we have found things we weren't even looking for. We found Carlos. We found Ferguson. We found Julie Ferguson. We found the DCFS case. We found everything but what we were looking for, which was an MBA, not even a bachelor's. I don't think it exists. There's no record. There's no record of her going anywhere. We even confirmed where she did graduate from high school. We found things we weren't even looking for, but not a single fucking trace of an education, of degree or MBA or bachelor's in what she told a federal judge. Now I can confidently tell you that she has no problem lying to judges. I can tell you that she lied to this judge to obtain this protective order. Why am I so confident telling you that? Because she talks about that arrest on January 4th, and the police report makes no mention of these things. I can tell you she was comfortable enough lying to a fucking judge. And that is really fucking bold. Like, it's one thing to get on here and lie to, you know, your viewers, reporters. I mean, that's bold as well to do these interviews and lie. But a judge, it didn't scare you to lie to a judge either. I believe she lied to this judge, and I believe she lied to his sentencing judge when she told him she held 2 degrees. The same way that she exaggerated what happened during the arrest, I believe she exaggerated her education. Her education is probably in fine arts. The time that she was claiming she was enrolled in school is the time that she was playing fucking dress up at the theater. You know? Miss Bellbottom, her onion layers are crazy work. Look, let me give you a comparison, because one thing, hold on. I gotta go one. Where's the countess? Where is the dress up pictures? Do I not have them here? I want to just give you visuals. You know, I love telling this story with visuals. It's like a storybook, so that you guys can see the shock factor in her ability to pretend. Isabel, thank you so much for gifting a membership. Where is the Candace? Where's the Candace file? Where are the fucking dress up pictures? Okay, hold on. I'm almost there. Where's the sketch cabaret? Nosotros chingarle for nuestro matrimonio. What you did was chingarle su pinche visa, Candace. What the hell? What the heliante? Okay, let me give you a side by side. This is Candace before 9 p.m. This is Candace after 9 p.m. Okay, I'm not showing you this to make fun of her, alright? Although I have my personal opinions about her photo shoots or her dress up days, that's not the point of me pulling up these pictures. I want you to see a visual of the day and night and her ability to shapeshift, her ability to appropriate, her ability to shed one identity and take a new one. This isn't just dressing up in photos. This is a different. You went from Ms. Bell Bottoms. You see what I'm saying? Now, when you ask yourself, how did she sell a story with all of that and into life after deportation? Well, the same way she would go from Ms. Bell Bottoms to the Night Creeper or Candace After Dark. Whatever. I'm sorry, whatever you want to call her. Okay? Yeah. That's a mighty glow up, whatever you want to call it. Candace, I think she's the only one of her siblings without an education. She makes up for becoming Laguerita70. Hey, that wouldn't surprise me. I was, for a long time, the only one out of my siblings without a college education, and I still haven't obtained my degree. I was the only sibling without a college degree, so I'm sure that I relate. It doesn't feel good. I wouldn't lie and say I had one just to fucking, you know, diabolical. So, Sketch Cabaret was all the way until 2012. Remember we went through the Sketch Cabaret days? And she was active in 2011. Remember? Let me go look. Sketch Cabaret. You search Sketch Cabaret and her pictures come up. Sorry. Oh, 2016. Okay, I think she was active from 2000. I don't think she was active here yet in 2011. 2017. Oh, wait. Hey, I haven't seen this one yet. 2016. Sketch cover. I mean, she lived in a fairy tale. One thing we do know is she's a skilled liar. Sketch cabaret for sketchy people like Candace. That's actually a good one. Wait, I haven't seen some of these. Yeah, her sketch cabaret days are wild, considering what she presents in present day. And I don't think sketch cabaret days are over, if I'm being honest. She was on Fairy Tale. Yeah. School Merit is canceled tomorrow. Not for us. I haven't received anything. So, oh, the AIs. I've seen Bam Bam has been putting in. Hey, can I make a special request? Bam Bam, in Bam Bam's profile, she has her Cash App. I don't know who Bam Bam is. I personally don't have Cash App, but she has been keeping us entertained, and she's been putting in some major work. I wanted to ask if any of you guys have Cash App to send her, I don't know, $1 or $2, just so she knows we see her and we appreciate her, because the dressy was. Thank you, besties. Yeah, I personally wanted to send her. I don't have Cash App, but maybe send like $1 and request. If you guys have requests for Bam Bam, I think you guys should send them to her through Cash App, even if it's a tiny like $1 or $2. Because she has been keeping our timeline fucking entertained. I have been refreshing for her stuff. If I were Alondra, I'd be telling Carlos to stay out of it. Oh, look, I would be honest. I would stay the fuck away from me right now. Look at Torta. Now she's on fucking Bam Bam's page. Look what you did. Wah! Have you guys seen that viral clip of Blueface's little girl? Now look what you did. Wah! Yeah, that's you right now. Stay out of it. Stay out of it. I did see by the way, I cannot take credit for Bam Bam's page, but I do claim her because I know she's one of mine, and I know she's taking her inspo from my series. So no, I'm not the one creating the pages or the creativeness behind it. Do I support it? Absolutely. I'd be liking that shit. I'd be retweeting some of it, but it's not me. Okay, I promise you, if I ever do some shit, I'm gonna tell you, yeah, that's me. That's me. But I do find them entirely entertaining. $5 on the way for Bam Bam. Shout out to Bam Bam. But send her a request. They'll never send her a request. Let's see. We now need an updated one with Carlos Ortiz. I know actually, I think she did some with Carlos Ortiz. Let me go look at Bam Bam's page. Also, why did they put the MAGA hat on Carlos? Which, honestly, I can see it. I could totally see it. Because remember, Carlos wasn't deported. Carlos blames the situation on white people in the tiny little town he's from. So it would not surprise me that, and in fact, I think his brother had some, like, MAGA ideology. Correct me if I'm wrong. I saw that. But why did they put the MAGA hat on Carlos? I want to understand where that came from. Not that it would surprise me. Also, I would love to find Carlos Ortiz. What happened to him? What happened to him? It was so long ago though, but what happened to Carlos Ortiz? We know Fidel is not going to talk because that's his wife now, but Carlos Ortiz, have you seen Laguerita70 viral represented deportation stories? And like, he has to know. He knows he got arrested because of her. Like, how do you feel about that, Carlos? If you're watching this, if you're out there, Carlos, anybody, we need to know how you feel about this. Like, you got really screwed. Carlo has a private TikTok with an avatar wearing a MAGA hat. Really? I did not know that. No, Annie does not have a P.O. box. I don't do P.O. boxes. It's too expensive for people to ship down here, and honestly, I got too many fucking haters, okay, to be giving out P.O. boxes. That shit would be dangerous. Why did they do the Cookie Monster though? What's the correlation to the Cookie Monster and torta? Sorry, bestie. I don't even know how she does those, but they're funny. I thought it was a troll page, the Carlos MAGA one. I haven't seen it. But you know what? Does it surprise you? I can tell you why they came up with that. Carlos aligning with the white woman in this tells you everything you need to know about where he stands morally and politically. And mind you, he aligned with her before we even fell out. Before we had any beef. Before I even had, I don't know what she told him for him to jump ship and to choose to distance himself from, you know, a team of Latinos to align with the white lady. And that's probably why they put the MAGA hat on him, because I could see it. Even if he's never made any, you know, MAGA content, but think about it. He chose to align with the white lady over a team of Latino creators representing deportation stories. And it's giving Latinos for Trump. It's giving Latinos for whites. His alliance to her, I think, is so terrible for his brand. This bullshit aside, because with everything that happened, he made a choice to turn his back on a group of Latinos. It wasn't just me. He had made commitments to our group already. He had taken on roles for the projects that we had discussed. And he walked away from all of that to align with Candace. And he was already working on the podcast. You could tell he was at a crossroads and he was weighing out what would serve him better. And he aligned with the white creator. Laguerita con no Miracle Whip. And here's what I don't think exactly. He has such a resentment for the white people that accused him, and he blames everything that happened to him on those white people. So why would he align with the white lady? Because he acknowledges the power of white people. He knows you don't want to be ops with white people. He knows their privilege, he knows their power, and he resents them deeply for it. So you think he's gonna make the same mistake out here? If I gotta choose between the big white lady and the minorities, I'm picking the white lady this time, because last time I sided with the minorities, aka his brother, and I got fucked. He learned his lesson. But those white people don't have millions of followers. And without that, he got screwed. Annabelle Bestie, thank you so much. She just sent me a $5 Venmo for coffee, chisme, whiteboard activities. Let's get a copy of his warrant. Honestly, I don't have much interest for his story or his receipts. Like with what I found, that was enough. And I was told he shared some of it on his response video, but at the end of the day, the story is the same. And the fact that he didn't see his case through, like, we'll never know. It's not like there's a court case we could look up and see if he was sentenced, judged, guilty, innocent, because he ran. The only facts in that case is that he ran. And I just feel like innocent people don't give up their entire lives and run away. Innocent people don't have anything to hide from. And mind you, he didn't just run. He left the fucking country, yo. He could have gone to the next state over, a couple, 3, 4, 5 states down. He took off to a whole nother country. That tells you everything you need to know. Innocent people don't do that. Uproot their entire family with a newborn. He left his pregnant or newly postpartum wife. He had a newborn. Like, he will never, his curse, and this is a perfect example of his past will always haunt him. It's still haunting him because he ran. He made the wrong choice in running. It will haunt him forever. He will always be looked at as a coward. And he will never be, there will always be that uncertainty of if he did it or not. You can never, and why hasn't he taken care of it? Why don't you go to court from down here? You can clear up a warrant from down here. Right? So he ran away like a coward, and then his wife followed him over here. And now they're going to romanticize that story too because it sells. But you weren't deported. You ran. You ran because you didn't want to be, or too scared to go to court. Innocent people don't take off in the middle of the night. leave everything behind, including newborn children, to flee to another country. And that's the legacy that he left behind for his children, and that is heartbreaking. Imagine eventually your kids grow up and they go back to the States, because that's where they're from, and the legacy left behind for them is that you stole all this money, you scammed all these people, and you ran away. And that's exactly why I didn't run. That's the only thing that kept me there. I was scared too. I knew, and mind you, I knew I was guilty. I knew I was guilty and still didn't run because I didn't want to leave that legacy for my kids. Now look, my kids can go back and forth. My kids, yeah, I have a history out there. But I cleaned it up, turned my life around, and I'm warrant free, fuckboy free, and I left a different legacy for them. So, yeah, I mean, I have a personal opinion on his choices. I think are poor and are being romanticized and hiding behind the deportation plot. Mind you, he also took an interview to represent deportation stories when he fucking ran away to avoid criminal prosecution. That's not a deportation story. That's not a family separation story. That's not a struggles of a documented story. That is the struggles of a criminal. Been there, done that. Right? So as much as people like to remind me, like, oh, well, you got deported because you did this. Yeah. So let's keep shit clear that certain stories this happened because you chose it. And they all have things in common. It tells you why they get along so well. Because y'all are out here just selling fake stories for money. But he's doing big things. He's moving up the ladder, up her ass. And he's representing the people, y'all. These newscast people need to do more background checks. Belinda, thank you.
Laguerita71 sent $9.99 cheese Maybucks. People that don't take accountability for their mistakes don't change.
Oh my gosh. I agree, Belinda. Thank you so much. My baby just found me the Canada mug. It's Starvy's. I love him. They're the tiny little ones. I didn't think he would find it, but he found it for me. Aw, that one's gonna be so special. Sorry. Okay, so the reason why I think those news reporters that ran all these stories, right, were just looking for like a bunch of people that they could, because deportation was trending last year. It was this huge thing because Trump and the mass deportation. So they didn't really fact check anybody, with the exception, I will say, the San Diego, I think it was the report that came down from San Diego asked for background checks. That was the only one. And I think there was one that wanted to come out and do like a mini series. He asked for background checks, and I just remember Olga was the one that declined. She didn't want to do a background check. So I do think that backgrounds are relevant when you're reporting on these stories, sharing these stories, because you're setting an expectation for people still inside the U.S. and lying or omitting certain things to like romanticize these stories or make them seem like such stories of struggle, but leaving out the context of why these things happened creates a fear within the community. For example, I remember when in 2023, when I shared that Candace's husband was actually deported for crimes, there was multiple people that said, when I heard her story that he had just gotten picked up on his way to work, it made me scared for my husband. Because she made it seem like he just got pulled over for being at the wrong place, wrong time, and handed over to ICE. Granted, that's happening now, perhaps, but back then, so you set like this ripple effect of fear, because look at what happened to them. Or if we get on here and say like we're just getting deported unfairly, it creates fear within the community that's still in the U.S. Like, context is information. It is important, right? Well, yeah, I got deported. He got arrested on his way to work, but it's because he had felony warrants at the time. It's because he wasn't law abiding. It's because he was AWOL from his parole officer. So yeah, that would make, oh, okay, well that makes all the fucking sense. You know, I don't got to worry about my husband because my husband doesn't have warrants. My husband is law abiding, so that wouldn't happen to him. It's fear mongering in a way, absolutely. Hospice girl here, please don't take on another case till after I'm gone or I can't leave. Bestie? My heart hurts. Don't say that. I don't even know what to say to that. We're gonna take on more cases so you don't leave. If that will keep you here, I'll start as many cases as you need me to, so it keeps you here. Oh, bestie, that made my heart like melt you. Thank you for being here and connecting and sharing that piece of your life with us. That's some deep shit. I'm honored to be able to accompany you, all of us, you know, and I hope that these lives give you a little bit of distraction, entertainment, as much as you can have while you're in there. That was rough, Bessie. His wife is crazy for following him to PV. Yeah. If you left me with a newborn, fuck you. Disrespectfully, I'm sorry. Alondra, stand up, bitch. Stand up. Like, Candace, I get it because she was the one that, like, fucked him over. So Candace followed him over here, one, out of guilt, two, because, that was, you know, she knew guilt, and she also had burned some bridges back home. So it was almost like a clean slate for her. But, Alondra, girl, he left you in the middle of the night because he was too much of a coward to lawyer up and go to court. Now, granted, I'm sure it was a joint decision. But what did he have to tell you for you to agree to allow him to leave you in that sort of position? With a newborn, then she gets evicted, then she has to face the wrath of the family, and he left her there alone. However you want to paint that story or justify it, even if she was on board, she was in a vulnerable position. He took advantage of that, got her to agree to let him leave, and left her there with the babies, a newborn, postpartum, a fucking legal mess, social mess. She had to face she had to face the town. Yeah, and she was living in the family's house that he stole from. And then she got evicted. She's got a new, like, she had to face the music for him. Like, that's my man. I'm gonna stand behind him. That's her. Cold day in hell. Sorry, you fucked up. May that love never fucking find me on any side of the border. and that's her man. That's a fucking coward if I ever see one. I'm sorry. One thing you will never be able to stunt, Carlos, because I know you watch these, is that you're a good father or husband. You may have her completely brainwashed. She's vulnerable. She's tied to you. She loves you. But the rest of us, oh, we see it for what it is. You know, I'm actually curious to see in all these little stories that are like being glamorized and romanticized and making content and family vlog, how long do you think they're gonna last? What's gonna happen if a divorce comes along? I'm really curious because we've seen a float of them. How many are gonna actually last of these spouses that move to Mexico for whatever reason, under whatever circumstances? How long before we start seeing some come with me as I move back to the U.S. after divorcing my husband that got deported or some shit? He's bold being on social media and being on the run. Honestly, yeah. Yeah. Oh, and his brother faced the music with the courts. But with the town, she did. That was the spouse. And mind you, she was living in a property that belonged to the family that he was screwing over. Like, you couldn't at least move her out, get her situated, leave her in a safe place before you took off. That's crazy. And that tells you que se le hizo así el culito. That tells you how big of a coward he was, because he was that scared. He said, fuck everybody. I gotta put me first, Alondra. He said, I know you just had a baby, but...
Caballero 628 cent $1.99.
Thank you, Magali. Carlos said, I know you just birthed my baby, but I gotta put me first, bitch. Peace. It's already happened. There's one lady on here that came back home and is a teacher again. It's already happened. You just they don't make content about that. Or at least from what I've seen. Remember Alexis, also part of the hate campaign? She was living in Puebla, close to Candace actually, doing the whole life after deportation with my boyfriend, and then she just ghosted. Never heard from her again. Why? Because she broke up with him and she left him and went back. And that's that privilege we're talking about, right? All these spouses that are representing the deportation stories and appropriating their stories and the struggle, and it's so hard, but at the same time, when if it doesn't work, I could just dip and go back. I could just pick up my kids and we go back to the States and we start all over, and he's on his own. So that's why I don't agree with spouses appropriating the deportation stories. They're not their stories. Their life after relocation. Yeah, you moved, and that's a story in its own. But becoming the face of a deportation that isn't even yours is fucking wild work. It's appropriation, especially when you can still go back. And I have yet to see a deportation story of a spouse that follows their husband knowing they can't go back to the U.S. You ever seen any of those? No. You ever seen anyone actually do it for love and say, fuck, I'm gonna leave everything and come with you, knowing they're undocumented too? I haven't seen one yet. They're all women that are U.S. citizens that follow their spouses. I've never seen a man on this app with that storyline. Statistically, it's wives. Wives that are U.S. citizens that are following their husbands. Why are there no men following their wives? Well, I personally know one. Only one. And we romanticize the woman following the husband. Okay? Alex and his wife. I don't know who that is. But why don't we hear of... Let's talk about why men don't follow their deported wives or girlfriends. Do you know of any? Please tag them. If I just haven't the ones that I see, they're all women, which that is some brave shit in its own, because that would be scary. Okay, but can we talk about the men? Can we talk about the men and why we see no stories of men coming across and following their deported wives? In fact, the only deportation stories that I've seen of women, they're getting fucked by the husband. The one that comes to mind is the last girl in Playa del Carmen, where her husband also had something to do with it, or left her hanging dry and got a new girl. Unfortunately, my baby daddy fed me to the wolves, helped me get deported too. So the only stories I've ever heard of the man's role in the deportation story is never following them over here, but always having something to do with the fucking deportation or making it harder. Because men will not go back. Because the majority of the men are undocumented, and they're not willing to leave their entire lives for their wives. And all of the wives that I've seen that have followed their husbands over are dual citizens. I want to see a real love story. I want to see somebody that left everything behind, knowing they're undocumented, to follow their deported spouse. I want to see at least one. That one will be the love after. That one should be.
628 cent $4.99 cheese Maybucks. This very interesting how you discover detail by detail. It would be interesting if you go into Daisy Law 1 to Jonah case. Nothing to do deportation.
Thank you, Bessie. I have no idea who Daisy La Wandajona is. No idea. Nothing to do with deportation. It is... Alex, his wife is undocumented there in Tijuana. Oh, I would love to see. Can you tag him? Was she deported? Or was it a self-deportation? I want to see a real deportation. I want to see a wife that got deported and the man followed her over. Also, I want to see a gringo do that. How come I see no white men? Where are the white men following their Latinas over here? None. He was deported. No, so I'm asking for, I want husbands that followed their deported wives that I've never seen. I see a lot of wives following husbands. But I'm trying to make a point with statistically, men ain't shit on either side of the border. But it's always women. It's always the wives. And I've seen, well, you know what? I did see one gringo. I do know one. He followed his wife to Guatemala. Their name, what is his name? We're mutuals. She got deported to Guatemala. They have a cute little girl. He is retired Army. Hello, white boy. What's his name? That's one. I've seen one. And I think currently he lives in the U.S. because there's something going on where he can't stay living too long in Guatemala. The one lady also that has 2 kids, her husband is American. He works from home and I don't know what she does. I can't think of her name. Let's search the MAGA men. The reason why we don't see men following their deported wives is because they're all fucking MAGA. Yeah, I do think it's interesting that I don't think men would sacrifice their entire lives in the U.S. Well, I know of 2. Only 2. The rest of the stories that I see on social media, it's all women, all spouses following their husbands over. Did she get deported? Did he follow? I never heard anything after. Because men will unfortunately just replace, yeah. Women just love harder, you know. And I want to be very clear. I do acknowledge that spouses, like, that's a brave thing to do. That would be scary. To leave your entire, everything you know, to move to a different country with your spouse. But it's not deportation. And there's always that, if this doesn't work, there's that safety net that you can grab your kids or you can move back to the U.S. So I think it's an entirely different niche. It's an entirely different struggle, journey, but it's a struggle. And it's commendable and it should be acknowledged. But it's not the representation of deportation. Deportation stories should be represented by deported people, not people with the privilege to come and go, not people with privilege that relocated on their own with arrangements, with their suitcases, with their kids that got to throw going away parties, that get to go back and forth, that have the best of both worlds, which I love that for you. But how can you represent the struggle of a trauma that you've never lived just because you're married? It's like a white woman trying to be, you know, BLM, trying to be the face of BLM. And call me crazy if I'm reaching, but that is how I relate it. Like, we wouldn't let a white woman tell us how hard it is to be black and the struggles of being black. So why are white women representing the struggle of being deported when they're not deported? Just because they're married to a man that was deported. It's just like, well, I'm married to a black man, so I know firsthand how hard it is to be black. It's giving I have black friends, so I'm not racist. It's giving I bought a whiteboard, so I'm not racist. It's the same concept to me, and I'm obviously passionate about it because I'm biased. I'm biased, and I lived it. So to see a white women, or anybody, not entirely just white, but somebody that didn't live it, like even self-deportation stories are different. I don't even like the term self-deportation, because if you got to make arrangements and book your own flight and say bye to your families and, you know, save and pack your bags and bring you weren't deported. Yes, you left on your own and perhaps you were pushed out by immigration policies. I acknowledge that, and that's, again, a story in itself. But how can we appropriate a trauma that we've never experienced? And that's probably coming from, and I could be wrong, these are just my personal views, opinions. It doesn't mean that what I say goes. But when I see these things, I feel offended as somebody that lived through deportation to see people that haven't been deported representing the struggle or speaking on the struggle when you had privileges that those of us that were dehumanized didn't. Those of us that were dehumanized by the machine of deportation, we didn't get to say bye. We didn't get to throw parties. We don't get to, clear out our apartments. We didn't get to give notice. We didn't get to say goodbye to our friends, even our kids. Just life changed for us overnight, right? So we live, and that is lifelong shit. It's been almost 10 years for me, okay? And I can tell you it's still very much alive and well. So when I see people appropriating that, because it's appropriating that trauma, oh, must be fucking nice. Must be nice to get on here and say, yeah, when you never. And I'm glad that you never, because I would never wish for people to go through that. I'm self-conscious of chewing now because last time I busted said, I don't like how you leave. I gotta leave and come back. It's a misrepresentation. It's a... Native Ray, why did I think you were already subscribed? Welcome, bestie.
And Native Ray has purchased a membership.
And then going back to Candace. The nerve. The Candace offends me. Candace's story offends me. Knowing her history. I'm never gonna look at her history. And you know what? A lot of people hate me all you want. You could be anti-Annie as fuck, but you could never look at that story the same again after all this is all we've uncovered in this series. Did Candy sue yet? Candelaria, to have this person as the face of deportation and building a monstrosity on our land, all while she has 2 deportations under her belt, is like a cruel joke from God. It's a white privilege in our own backyard. Like, it's one thing to do it in the States. That's their playground, right? The shit she did with Ortiz and Fidel. We were in her court. But here, and the land and the croplands, like all of it, the town she chose, like, why didn't you choose fucking Vallarta, El Cabo, Playa del Carmen? Why are you building there, Candace? Why did you choose that area? And it's not because his family lives there, I promise you. Because it's cheap. Because she can get more bang for her buck. Because labor's cheap. Because where else are you going to find that size of a land for the price that she allegedly paid? And I don't think she paid for it. I think the family just gave them the rights of usage that they have from the ejido. Like, at least go to a tourist town where you're not going to stick out. But by her building there, she has started the gentrification and colonization of that town. She has set it in motion, because before that house was there, it was just cropland. So now there's one house. So now why don't we put another house? And another house. And little by little, the croplands will start to get wiped out. And little by little, that will become a residential area. And that is exactly how colonization starts. That is exactly what it is. Wealth moving into poor urban areas. Class, what is the definition of gentrification? If we Google it, a quick Google will tell us. Gentrification is wealth moving into poor areas. What is the White House? Wealth, bitch. You think anybody else in that town has the economic power to build a house that big? Why do you think there's no other houses built on those croplands? Because they can't afford it. You think anybody else in there is earning dollars? No. It's the first of its kind in that area. It's giving a plantation home, absolutely. And it's been romanticized by the deportation. But it belongs to the husband, but she has a right to it. But blah, 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 blah. But, oh, she does so much for her community. Oh, give me a fucking break. And if it was anybody else, when it's Mexicans that come back and do that, oh, they're gentrifying. Oh, they're doing this. Oh, they're doing that. But a little white, cute little white woman, and this entire series has been highlighting the privilege that one white woman was given by our community to do the fucking most for the fucking bare minimum for our people. There's many Condis stories, Anglo-ingrained racist ideals is 250 years long and still pushing those ideologies. Those people get a basketball from her. I think that's such a huge... She throws a pizza party and she does so much for her community. She gives them fucking 20 peso candy bags. She gives so much. Really? She gives so much? She gives so much to her own family. She gives the bare minimum for some... And she gets it all back. She makes it all back with the videos she makes about giving back. The candy bags. And remember, yes, when they asked her if it was the biggest house, and she said no. There's plenty of houses much bigger than ours. That was a big ass lie, Candace. In fact, it's the only house for miles. Most people's houses are the size of her garage. Why did she tell you it wasn't the biggest house? Why not be honest? Yeah, it's the first. Because she knew it would open the door for, why are you making it that big? And that's really why she didn't want people to see where it was and make sure you don't share a location. That's why she didn't want people to see the surrounding areas, because hers is, you could see that shit from fucking space. How do you think viewers found it through Google Maps? Because it's the biggest fucking one. If it blended into the town and there were bigger houses, you think viewers would have been able to find it on Google Maps? No. It would have been hard to pick out. I live in a 4-story home right now. Around 4-story homes. So if you try to Google map my shit, good luck. Because it blends in. I forgot about that. I forgot she told us it wasn't the biggest house. You fucking liar. Her 10+ year mansion in the making. All I know is that shit's gonna follow her around. And again, remember, it was built by taxpayer PPP loans. God, I took the most delicious nap today. He that is in heaven. Yeah, poor Fidel. Sometimes I feel bad for him, but then there's other times where I'm like, he's probably complicit in some of this. Cause Fidel, you think Fidel wanted to build a house that big? You think Fidel was planned it out and mapped out and Fidel would have been fine with with what they rented, probably. Fidel would have been fine renting. I will never get over her workers wanting to put their bonuses together to give it to the one that had his child in the hospital. Yeah, that was sad. And right in front of her. And the fact that she's so disconnected that she would still post it and not realize how that makes her look. Not realize that opens the door for us to question, for all the money you make. And all your workers had to get their bonuses together because one of them was in need, and you didn't take that as an opportunity to be like, you know what? Keep your bonus. I'll help him. That would have been an opportunity for great marketing. That was a missed opportunity for her to be able to write on that I do so much for my community, but so out of touch that she was like, oh, okay, yeah, it's yours. You can do whatever you want with it. $100 in the speaker. Ugh. Shame on her. Annie, did you see that if you owe $2,500 in child support, they used to take away your passport? Unfortunately, my baby daddy don't have one. Never seen a Mexican man so docile like Fidel. Con el dinero baila el perro. He knows where his money's coming from. Also, we don't see the real Fidel on social media, just like we don't see the real Candace on social media. She purposely paints him out to be this docile, calm. He does what I say. He's built me a house. I do this. He does that. We don't know what it's behind the scenes, and I don't believe for a minute he's really just like tan pendejo que he's the, you know, that's a Mexican man raised from and living in his small rural hometown. If you think that what you see is what it is, be so for real. We know Candace is not the real Candace on her platforms. That's why she's right. And when what's he doing off the screen? You don't see the real characters. You see a facade on there. How much do you think that house is worth? I estimated at least. What did I estimate last time? We did some math. We did some numbers. I think it was close to $1 million USD. I just watched a documentary on the cartel that lived in Pablo. It has the only house that looks like Candace. All the other ones are this tiny. Yeah, it was over $1 million USD. Don't get it twisted that it's cheap and this and that because it's Mexico. The only thing that's cheap is labor. Material is just as, if not more, expensive. She's probably saving money on labor. Obviously, she wouldn't be able to do that in the States. But as far as material, that house is not just a regular house. It's got the best of the best. The tile, the bathtubs, the square footage. That house is at least $1 million USD. Easy. The granite countertops, all the finishes. I saw somebody be like, that house is probably only costing like $15,000. What? Una colada, which is like the pour of the cement alone, was at least 20,000 USD for the size. Some people are so out of touch and they really think that Mexico is so cheap. Building a house is so cheap. The only difference is labor. And we know she's skimping out her workers. But material? Crazy. She's been asked multiple times about the cost. And she's responded a couple times that, there's just some things we don't want to share. There's a reason she doesn't make videos about what things are costing when she does material hauls. That would be great content, don't you think, for people that are trying to build? She's all about helping the people in the community. There's a reason she avoids talking about what it's cost her to do this, to get material, because then people will be like, damn, where is she earning all this money from? There's a reason she didn't tell you how much the marble countertops cost. That shit is fucking expensive. And there's a reason she's never made a video about buying property as a foreigner. There's a reason she's never made a video about her escrituras. Ask her anything about the legality of the property, she won't know. Because she doesn't own the land. Read between the lines. So perhaps she saved money on the land and labor, but not on materials. And that is a big house. Delivery of materials. The majority of that material is not available locally. She's getting it imported from the city. That inter-ceramic hall came all the way from Mexico City. They charged for that. It wasn't no collab. Inter-ceramic is one of the most biggest successful companies in Mexico. They have no fucking reason to do a collab with her. Trust, it was no collab. Okay, so the marble countertops, all the fucking tile that they hauled in from Mexico City, that's not local. None of the material they're buying is local, mind you. She always stresses how they like to buy local, local, local. All of that material came from Mexico City. All of it. There is no local suppliers in town big enough to supply the amount of materials that have gone into that home. Not the block, not the cement, none of that shit. It all comes in from Mexico City. The most you have in that tiny little town is una ferreteria, which is where they sell tools, basic little things. There is no store in that town that can supply a build of that size. That's why there's no blogs of them buying locally. All of that goes into the cost. All that shit's coming from Mexico City. The delivery of that material plus the cost of material, yeah, the most you have in that tiny town is a little hardware store. There's a reason there's no the biggest building in that town is the government building. There's a reason there's no big stores. There's no malls. There's no nothing. The only thing in that little town are little tiny houses. So why would there be a big supplier for construction there when there's no construction besides Candace's house? They're importing all that shit. Probably Mexico City, maybe other places. Who knows? So all of that is excluded from the vlog because then that would, well, how are you paying for this? Oh, I work with my MBA, my YouTube. No fucking MBA is pulling in that amount of money to build that big of a house. And the marble, she didn't even go like all the finishing touches, the best, bitch. Marble, you get marble, you get marble, you get marble. Every bathtub, you get a bathtub, you get a bathtub, you get a bathtub. That is an American home. It's Americanized. No Mexican home in that town has a bathtub. Bathtubs are luxuries in Mexico. Most houses don't have them. Most houses don't. It's why I had to custom build my own in Dubai. Bathtubs are things that you find in luxury homes in Mexico, in resorts. They are not part of regular homes. They're just not. Think about this. She has one in every. She made a vlog that she's putting one in every single bathroom. Why? Because in the U.S. it's custom to have bathtubs in every bathroom. That house is an American home, designed by an American, built for an American, but built by Mexicans. Getting paid minimum wage. Just like in the fucking U.S. Everything is made for the Americans, but built by the Mexicans, and not for the Mexicans. And that pisses me off. Some resorts don't even have bathtubs. Ni que no tuviéramos arquitectos. Her architect is from the United States. She vlogged that too. I didn't say we don't have architects here. We have some badass ones. You should see some of the houses designed in my neighborhood. But her house is designed by an American architect. She vlogged it. The virtual walkthrough was made by an American too. Made by an American, designed by an American, built for an American, but built by Mexican hands. The only Mexican part of that house are the hands building it. She doesn't have escrituras. She doesn't have escrituras because the land doesn't belong to her. The land belongs to el ejido. What she likely has, or what his family likely has, is the right of usage to the land. But it's not ownership. There's no way she could have escrituras because that land, we looked this up through public records in Mexico, has not gone through the legal proceeding to be made into public property to be able to be sold to an individual and obtain escrituras. That land still belongs to el ejido. But his family possibly has rights of usage. We know that because they've been cropping that land. So they have rights of usage from the ejido to crop that area. So if they have rights of usage, it means they can do stuff on the land. They have the right from the ejido, the permission to use the land. But doesn't mean that you own it. It's kind of like an HOA. Very similar to an HOA. Why does she need an office to smoke her cigarettes while she watches Honey's lives? For her MBA. For that MBA. She does work for all over the world, don't you know? Can you explain more of the ejidatarios? Come in. The ejidatarios are... Were you sleeping? Los ejidatarios are a group of indigenous locals to the land. It's a community. And the land, it was part of a reform in Mexico that the land does not belong to the government. It belongs to the community for the use of the community. So the community owns the land, not an individual and not the government. And the community, kind of like an HOA, they have meetings every year and they decide what they do with the land. They can decide to use it for crops, which is the most common. So they use the land to crop, and those crops feed the town. See what I'm saying? So it's land that is supposed to be used for common good of the community, to crop, to raise animals, agriculture purposes. That community owns the land. So typically, families of that community are issued parts of the land, parcelas. Yes, it belongs to the indigenous. And they are given a certificate by the community that gives them rights to usage to that plot of land. And it's like a contract between the people, the individual families, and the community, where they issue a certificate that says, we give you the right to use this land to crop this type of food, right? And that food is going to be sold into the community, so it still remains for the use of the community. See what I'm saying? But the community still owns the land. And if the individual family using the land violates the contract in any way or creates issues, that community, just like an HOA, can take the land back or displace them. It means that the community owns the land. It's not owned by the individual. It's not owned by the government. It can't be purchased by individuals like regular real estate properties. It is very similar to like an Indian reservation or a native reservation, I'm sorry. Similar, but not the same. But yes, and that town is one of the pueblos originarios. It's one of the original towns of Mexico. So it goes back generations. These are indigenous lands, which is why it was such a shock when you discover that a white American citizen took a portion of that land and is building a fucking White House on it. And they cleared out a portion of what used to be crops that were meant for the community to build that house. And that is modern day colonization. If they don't get to renew their contract for the land, they lose the house. Yes. You should never build on land that is not legally yours. And it's very common, a lot of people do it, and they're not educated, so they think they own it. When they get the certificate of usage from the community, from the ejido, they think I own it. And to a lot of people, it's sold to them thinking they own it. They don't own it. You don't own it. You have permission to use it. And if that means at any point the community wants it back, or you become an issue or something happens, they can take it from you. And that means whatever you built on it also belongs to them. So it is crazy to build your forever home on a piece of land that isn't yours is crazy. And it's why she's never talked about the process of buying. The only mention she's ever made about buying the land is that Fidel's mom owned it and she wanted to give it to them. But she didn't feel right taking it, so she paid Fidel's mom more than the market value. And now it's theirs. That's not how it works. And un ejido. She's so fucking uneducated, and she never thought somebody would look into it or break it down or find where it is and look up the shit. She probably doesn't even know that there's public records in Mexico where you can verify if a piece of land is still part of an ejido or belongs to an individual. Okay, so the only mention she's ever made about the land is that we bought it from Fidel's mom because she wanted to gift it to us, but I paid her double what it was actually worth, and now it's mine. Really? So tell us about the process of legalizing the land. Ask her what escrituras are. Ask her what the process was for her to buy as a foreigner. And if she put it under his name, ask her, why aren't you on that if you're married? From deporting men in Utah with nothing but a wit card to her name to the White Queen of Puebla. Yep, to the Ice Queen. It's crazy that she lies and you've proven that people still believe her. Right message, wrong messenger. Can U.S. citizens buy land? Yes, but it's a very different process and there are limitations. Valle Dorado. I don't know, it's too far. Hi, bestie. What's the issue with her? Sorry, guys. I'm trying to find a pediatric dentist. Colonizers. Anyway. Solutions. Alright, I'm gonna have to go. Calling Carlos Ortiz to the front. Yeah, it would be interesting to interview. Because we know that Candace and Fidel would never throw her under the bus. At least not in the way that she threw him under the bus in 2012 and 2016, but and that's the way the cookie crumbles, chap. So I think on the whiteboard next. On the whiteboard, I want to update this, not this, this side of the whiteboard. Delete her or erase her history because we don't really need it. And I want to make a timeline of the deportations and the similarities in the two cases. This is just so much work. But I think I'm going to erase the whiteboard and restructure. The whiteboard is honestly such a vibe. Did you guys see it? All right, let me show it to you guys. Flip the camera. Hold on. Flippy flip. All right. This side is her family history. I also already erased her family tree. And then this was the relationship timeline. But what I want to do now is the deportation timeline for the two men. And I want to have that ready for when we get the 911 call. The unredacted records are due soon. By tomorrow or Monday at the latest. Depending on whether they do business days or work or just calendar days. And I think that will tie everything up. And I've said this a lot of times, but I think we're getting to the end, Candace. Aguántanos un poquito más, but I really think we're coming to a finale with a 911 call. Also, yeah, Carlos and Fidel lived 8 minutes away from each other. The apartment complexes were only 8 minutes away from each other. And she was dating Fidel while living at the Ortiz complex. Until it's not a finale and we run into new shit. Like the pictures, the sketch pictures. That was such a fucking left turn. Guys, as the series is coming to an end, and we're gonna pick up another series, y'all know that. The Torta Files are barely commencing. But Canada's series will forever be my favorite. Forever. We've had so much fun on the series. The way things just kept coming up. And yeah, I do believe the finale will be the 911 call with the unredacted records. But can we go down memory lane really quick with this series? When I first started this series, episode 1 was so short, 40 minutes long. All I wanted to do was I didn't even want to do Candace. I shit you not. I didn't even want to do Candace. Because I didn't want to go back into the 2023 bullshit. And I didn't want to, I was already getting so much hate. I didn't want to do Candace, but I felt obligated to do it. Because I said I was going to do it. I was like, I'm just going to do a quick. Go back to episode 1. We were missing so much context in episode 1. Okay? And I remember like, okay, I'm going to do one episode and one live and then move on. Girl, the way we've been here almost 2 months. Dissecting all of this shit. Like, I will never forget when I came across the divorce records. And I text the girls and I was like, this is going to be some juicy shit. When I found her divorce filing to Ferguson, and that was what opened up the can of worms to everything else. I don't know how I didn't come across this sooner. Because in 2023, when I looked them up, I only looked at Fidel. But I remember when I was preparing for her episode, I was like, all right, well, I should look her up just in case she has any criminal records, right? I just felt like it was standard. I need to fact check all my characters. When I came across a divorce, I text the girls like, this is gonna be some juicy shit. How the fuck was she married? And to a white guy? And then when I found the Carlos Ortiz files, I didn't think it was her. I was like, it can't be her. All of it. Every time I would find something, I'd be like, it can't be her. It can't be her. Even the pictures on Facebook, Candace, is that you? Like, oh, it was a legendary series. Like, there was so much shit that I was like, wait. I don't think any series will ever outdo Candace's. There was just so many plots and twists and turns and surprise characters, and just like she had everything so hidden, like so different from what she has portrayed. Like, and I think that's why it was so fascinatingly interesting. When we were uncovering things, we were like, well, wait, this is not what she told us. Someone in the chat said to look up Ortiz's curb. We'd have to know what state he was born in. All we know is Mexico. The live reactions. Remember the character letters? In order to look up a quote, I have to know what state he's from. We have 32 guesses. A ver, let's try. A ver. I don't know if he has a middle name. I'm pretty sure. I don't think we're going to find him, guys. We're missing a middle name, and we're missing where he's from. A ver. The fact her son is one day away from his birthday is kind of ironic. 1985. Hombre, let's try. I don't know. He looks like he could be from like Guerrero. A ver. Let's try Guerrero. Nada. So, I'm pretty sure he has a middle name. Most Mexicans have a middle name. Guanajuato. Yeah, and this is how we start a whole new chapter every single time. Also, is Torres? Oh, sorry, I put with a Z. Sorry. Carlos Ortiz Torres. No. A ver, Guanajuato. Let me try to get it right. Tampoco. Michoacán. We know he's from Mexico. Well, according to the records we found, it said he was from Mexico. Famous last words, and then we go down another rabbit hole. Yeah, a lot of my peeps have the Jesus. Mexico City bestie, he had an America shirt. A ver. Ciudad de Mexico. We should try to find him on social media first. Yeah, Carlos Ortiz Torres, Total 85, Mauricio de Mexico, nada. Chiapas is in Oaxaca. I mean, he's a short king. Long hair, it's giving Jacob Black. My dad was born in Jalisco in the 50s. My grandparents gave all kids my grandma's last name as a middle name to my father. The Sun Ladies. The FBI should give us an office. No, but seriously, like, think it over. Think about it. Homeland. Let's talk. I really feel like we could be an asset. We could really be an asset to Homeland Security. Okay, we could vet people better than most people. Hear me out. We could be in charge of the PPP frauds. Like, we could investigate the PPP frauds. You know, we've done a lot of legal research here. We have done a lot of discovery that most people get paid for, okay, to do this level of researching. This is how they piece crimes together. This is how they find proof, evidence. I promise you, if I sent in a report for Candace on the PPP fraud with the exhibits and tailored it the same way I sent the appeal, I promise you I could hand them the entire fucking case. I promise you. I know some of you guys have reported her, but I know you guys haven't reported her the right way with all my receipts and everything that I have, okay? If I was to send in a report to the PP fraud department on her case with the exhibits, with everything that I have found, organized, concluded, I promise you they would open a case on her. The same way that I sent in that appeal. Ka-ching, ka-ching. Most people get away with crimes like Candace because they go undetected because of a lack of follow-up. No one's really investigating it, and they don't have enough staff to catch everybody. Okay. The same way that I just piece together different cases that are connected, like the Social Security card with her request for appeal. Okay. This is how crimes are pieced together. This is how cases are put together for court, for prosecution, for defenses, for all of it. I have not reported her for anything, personally. I know I've seen some of you guys, but I know that your guys' reports are probably like, you should look into Candace because she lived in Mexico and this. No, there's a certain way to do it. You have to organize. You have to send it in literally with everything already for them, that they can't just look away from it and say, oh, this is too much work. You pretty much do it for them. You give them the case that they have no choice but to act on it. How can you look away from evidence? How can you look away from legal documents that have dates, from admissions, from recordings, from timestamps? You can't. Try Jalisco. Find him on social media first. But I mean, that he's changed. That was when he was 18. A written brief. Yeah. Don't forget to like the lives in or out, or on your way in, on your way out. Thank you guys so much for supporting the research through research of your own, tips, Venmos, Zells, paid memberships. We are getting close to the end of this one, and it's actually kind of bittersweet. It is. But the next one's going to be fun too. Well, the report her, you have everything. I'm going to be honest. I really don't care to. She hasn't pissed. Maybe if she pisses me off enough, maybe. But I personally have just. This was never done with the intention to screw somebody's life over, or with malice. Like it really was just research. I don't have any ill intention in me to hurt her or harm her or her family, despite what you may think after watching this series. Okay, could I? Yes, I'm certain. I am certain I could persuade authorities into investigating her for PPP fraud. I just don't really see like what's the end goal. You know, I'll be the first to tell you. Sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do to take care of your family. She's no different. You know, I committed fraud too. I don't judge her for it. I just judge her for lying about it. So we gotta get together to turn it in, teacher. I mean, you guys have all the information. I am not an American taxpayer, okay? It's none of my business. That's your money that's getting stolen. If you've been watching the series, you have everything you need to put something together and send in an an organized report with facts that authorities can't just ignore.
At age 6, so sent $4.99 cheese Maybox. Bestie, it's been more than a pleasure to watch. You have been my new Netflix. Smiley face emoji. Rolling on the floor laughing emoji.
If she sues you, would you? Maybe. All is fair. And all is fair in the war, in the what is the fucking quote? All is fair in the game of love and war, or some shit. I don't know. I just don't feel like que me saco yo, you know. But also, I also have knowledge that there's people that have already reported her. But I just know I don't trust. I don't trust in how you guys have sent in those reports. His date of birth is 12/12/85. I'm new here and I'm trying to catch up. Catch up on my YouTube channel, Bessie. It's better organized over there. Class, we got homework. This is immigration fraud forensics. And the next case, because we are coming to the end of this one, I really think we have uncovered what I was looking for in Candace's story. My suspicions were very early in this series. I suspected that she had weaponized Fidel status. But when I found the second one, honestly, it's... I hate to say it, but I've been right this entire time. And, you know, I think that makes me feel like you got a skill for this. I was thinking about this earlier, that I was like, you know, I better be prepared when somebody tries to do their own series on me. You know, it could be just as entertaining. But then I realized, and I'm going to sound really fucking cocky when I say this, for somebody to be able to put together a series like this, investigation like this, with receipts like this, you need a level of knowledge, education, skill, and tact to be able to present like this. I just don't think there's anybody out there that has it. Respectfully. Most people that have tried to expose me and, you know, exposing Annie, once Annie's net, none of you bitches could ever make a presentation like this and pull receipts the way. Do you guys remember when Julia used to call herself the receipt queen because she showed a couple police reports that Sabrina emailed her? And everyone's like, oh my God, the receipt queen. You don't even know how to pull receipts. Most people don't even know how to pull these receipts. Most people wouldn't know how to appeal grammar requests. Most people are just not as organized and don't see things through my lens. The reason why you guys have enjoyed the way that I picked things apart and connected things and investigated things and read through the lines is because my brain is wired in a different way from being raised in the court system. I've been through way too many court systems. So what you're seeing is my brain working from a legal lens, from exhibits to this happened. It's a little bit of the attorney in me, or the aspiring attorney in me, connecting the dots. Most people don't have that. So for those of you, for my haters out there that I was like, when is that bitch next? Who's gonna do a series on her? Probably nobody will do a series this good on me. Sorry. And eventually I will get to my series. Be patient. Espérenme. I'm just not there. Just stuff keeps coming up. Like, I was ready to move on to mine, and then we found the fucking sketch files. And then the Ortiz files. Was it the sketch cabaret files that got in the way? I don't remember what it was, but I was this close to start sending in my own grabber requests, and then here we go. The fucking sketch cabaret files popped up. Can we pay you to write the report that we can submit? Yeah. Yeah, you can actually. My services are for hire. Oh, that would be, I mean, it would be similar to the appeal that I sent in, actually. It would be worded similar to the appeal. I would do a little bit of research, a little bit of case law, a little bit of ChatGPT, a little bit of citing my sources, dates, times, who, what, where, when, why. If you guys want me to write a brief, see what you did. I don't know, surprise me. If you guys want me to write a, fuck. Now look what you did. Wah. To that horn bestie too. A ver. There's my there's my brief tip line. Yeah, all is fair. That's what white Republican Christians in my family say when racism or capitalism comes to play for convenience. You might find something different in your files. Yeah, who knows, some discrepancies. But what you did. Now look what you did, bestie.
At Belinda Garcia6110 has just tipped $49.99 through
look,
Super
Candelaria.
Chat. Name your price.
Look, I'm an employee at this point, Candace, okay? Please don't take this personal. I'm being concealed. You hit the right price. I mean, okay, what would I need to include in this brief? The brief would be like a timeline of events with relating exhibits tied to each allegation. I would need to research the statute for PPP fraud, cite case law, and any cases. Yeah, I need college money. I need my college funds. Sorry, Candace. You sold Ortiz out for whatever money. You sold out Ortiz and Fidel for nothing, okay? I'm gonna lower my prices a little bit. You have practiced in good or bad ways all your life. I appreciate the racist aspects tied to all these accounts, plus one's personal step on it. I see that too. Yeah, this will take me a little bit. Because it would pretty much be compiling this entire series into a report. And the weight behind this brief is all of the records that we have. Including her LLC. Because when you apply for, and I also need to research a little bit more into the PPP loan applications, but when you apply for a PPP loan, it appears that it was a very simple, they didn't ask for much, they didn't vet much, they were just handing them out, and even the forgiveness of the loans, right? So I wonder, we would include the public records for their LLC, right? Where she creates content. She specified she created content. So how was PPP? How were your funds low? How was content affected by COVID? In fact, COVID was booming, right? We would have to pull up. I'd have to include her views during that time. I would include, information on the Creator Rewards program. I would include, what would the end goal would be that the information that we provide would be sufficient to create a doubt that the funds, not only were they obtained unlawfully or where she didn't qualify, but were the funds used for things they weren't supposed to be. So there's two components of fraud in this case that I am alleging. One, she didn't qualify for the loans because she wasn't in the United States. Two, the funds were used for the build of her house, not towards things that they were, and that also constitutes fraud. There are people that were charged because their bank records were subpoenaed, and it showed that the money was used to buy lavish cars, trips, real estate, etc. And they were charged with fraud, even if they obtained the loan, within the aspects of the law. So it would be on the for the report. I don't need to prove it. I just need to report with enough that it creates doubt for the government to open up an investigation. The government would need to subpoena bank records. Now imagine, and here's where my suspicion comes in, that she banks in the U.S. She still has banks. She banks in the U.S. She generates in the U.S. and then she moves it she moves the money down as she needs it, right, to pay the house or whatever. So imagine, hypothetically speaking, that the government was to subpoena her bank records where that loan was deposited into, and they see that the majority of that money is being moved to a foreign country. Because we know she was living in Mexico during that time. So it would be very easy to prove that that money didn't stay in the United States, which is what it was meant for. So two things. She obtained them without being actually eligible. And then two, once she obtained it, that money didn't stay in the United States. It went to a foreign country. And here's how we know she lived in Mexico at the time. Here is how we know she's a permanent resident of Mexico, because again, this is where we would bring in exhibits and screenshots, and she has shared a copy, a photo of her permanent resident card. Content in Mexico while she claims to be in the U.S. So that brief would need to include all of that. And again, we don't need to prove it. That's the reason why the PPP loans were made to be public records. It was at the root of a lawsuit, so people could report, and so that the government could investigate claims of misuse. That's the reason they were made public records. They initially were not. If you do some research into the history of these, loans, the reason the government made them public is so whistleblowers could call in. That's exactly what happened. A caterer from my town got 4 million PPP and he got caught. He basically sent the money to Belize. Proving it is the government's obligation. Right. Proving it is the government's obligation. But that's exactly why they made these records public, because the government doesn't have the capacity and doesn't have the knowledge, right? When they're getting the loan applications, they weren't even vetting. When they were getting forgiveness applications, they also weren't vetting. They were just forgiving. Document wasn't even having to be sent in. And then the next thing is, how the fuck is the PPP loan issued to Garcia Sanchez when your legal name is still Smith? So there's three, and how are we going to prove that her name is Smith? Well, look here, we have a birth certificate where she popped out a couple babies in Mexico while she claimed to be living in the U.S. And look, she's listed as Smith. So how did she pull a loan under Garcia Sanchez? Unless she used that alias again to avoid detection back to Smith.
At Karina Goff sent $2 cheese Maybox. When she sues, release the Kraken.
falling for intimidation tactics. Either file that shit or stop the cap. Carlos is gonna be her downfall, and Carlos is his way. Carlos is her way to respond, right? Because one thing we know about her is she refuses to come out and address it. So Carlos is her puppet, and I do believe that, based on the information that I also have obtained behind the scenes, that those posts are made with an intent to intimidate, and we're gonna sue, and just wait, you see what's coming, or whatever the fuck, right? He is the reason she's here. His little TikToks constantly shading me is what finally got me to pop off. And she got dragged in. She's in this series because of Carlos. If she hasn't learned, and she continues to, she's in this shit because of Carlos. And he talks too much, and it's what got him here, and her here. So, let him do his thing. Let him make his fucking stupid ass TikToks. Unfortunately, he looks worse than a female fighting bitch. If you're gonna sue, then sue. If you're meeting with attorneys, why do you need to announce to the world you're meeting with attorneys every time you meet with attorneys? Right? Do your thing, bro. I do believe, and it alludes to that. You're like, oh, we got this, we got that. Do it. Yeah, they gotta go out and just do it. But his mouth, his inability to keep things to himself, the condescending need to shade and this and threaten and blah, that's why all of this started. So déjalos que se embarren. Que hagan lo que tengan que hacer. And if that's his big power move, have at it. She can thank Carlos for ending up a part of this series. Because it was his constant shading for months, and indirect comments, and talking about me without saying my names, and constantly, you guys saw it. I mean, it's in the first video. But eventually I said, all right, fuck this shit. I'm so over it. Let's do it. And that man has only been in Mexico for a year? I'm up against 2 foreigners. Oh no. You probably could have intimidated me with lawsuits and all that shit 2-3 years ago. I'm up against 2 foreigners that think their American ways are gonna get them by. So anyway. You can't monetize in US dollars while filming and living in a foreign country. My guess is just trying to remove all the US money and flee back to Mexico. Which state did he flee from? North Carolina. Carlos should be meeting with attorneys to clear up his warrants in the United States. Carlos should be meeting with attorneys to clear up la cagadera que dejó in North Carolina and that poor family he victimized. That should be Carlos's focus. That should be what you're fucking meeting up with attorneys for. Clean up your shit over there before you start una nueva cagadera over here. Please and thank you. The least of their concerns, both of them. They have bigger legal worries than this fucking YouTube series. Both of them. Have experiences of employers, white Republicans abusing or even getting COVID stimulus. I gotta get going soon. He's like, he's an innocent woman. I don't think they would extradite for state crimes like that. They extradite for serious crimes, not white collar. The extradition requests you see are typically for violent crimes, not property crimes, because it's cheaper on them for him just to leave the country, right? Knowing he can't come back, than using taxpayer money to extradite him, bring him back, house him, imprison him, and then deport him again. That makes no sense. So the people that they actually look to extradite are people that have committed serious crimes, murder, rape, that type of thing, because then they can justify, you know, using financial resources to hunt them down, bring them back, imprison them, and then redeport them. Because that's what's going to happen, right? You're going to end up back in Mexico when they're done with you anyway. Yeah, look at the statute of limitations. We did look at the statute of limitations. I forget what they were. But yeah, all that would need to be included in the research for the brief, for the report, etc. Alright guys, I gotta wrap up soon. Actually, like, now. Where is Carlos gonna run when he gets caught up in his shit in Mexico? I don't know. I think Carlos moves a certain way and feels bold because his family is from Vallarta, and I think that gives him like a you know, yo soy de aquí, pata salada, y mi familia conoce, and you know, I know this person, and this person knows this person. I think that gives him a little bit, it makes him feel like a little bit of a macho. Situations like this where he thinks, you know, I'm from here. He's gonna learn the hard way. He's gonna learn the hard one if he wants to get into some shit, just some legal shit down here. Both of them are gonna learn some very hard lessons. There are a lot of things that I haven't shared about my journey here in learning the system.
Check all Mexico states for Carlos Ortiz Torres with a DOB December 12th, 1985 and nothing.
It's because he has a middle name. He has a middle name, and you have to put in the name exactly as it appears. Most Mexicans have a middle name. It's not customary for American records to list our middle names. All my records in the U.S. only say Ana Garcia, right? But I have a middle name. And my legal name here actually is 4 names. And up there they have him as Carlos Ortiz. We stumbled across the Torres, but they don't have his middle name. I guarantee you he has a middle name. And until we have that middle name, the group is not going to show up. It has to be exactly as it appears on his birth certificate. Exact spelling, everything. So it's, you know, we could search all 32, but if we're missing even a letter, if the spelling is a letter off, it's not going to come up. That's what happened with Diego when we were looking him up. We didn't have the middle name at first. And the other kids, we didn't have the middle name, right? So once we eventually guessed it, even the search for the middle names was funny. That was actually really cool if you think about it, how we were able to guess and figure out the kids' middle names based on her pattern of how she named her kids. Like, y'all, we were on some shit in this series, okay? Carlos Antonio, there's so many possibilities. We do know that's his real, well, that could be another thing. Is that even his name? Or is that just an alias he was using? Because we know he was undocumented and he had but the social security card he had with him that he got charged for had his name. So we don't know. I do know that when he got arrested, there was a DUI case for another Carlos Ortiz. I don't think that's his real name. Because there was another Carlos Ortiz. When he got charged with a DUI, another Carlos Ortiz came forward with his driver's license and proved that it wasn't him, so they dismissed the DUI. So I do think there's a possibility that may be an alias he was using. Because also, he looks a lot younger than the date of birth when he got arrested. Remember we mentioned that? That when here we fucking go. When he got arrested, he looks like a child in the picture where he got arrested. Okay. In 2008, when he got arrested, he was allegedly 23. And he looks like 18. Hey, what the hell? You didn't tell me? ¿Qué están haciendo? Not this. I'm fucking fired. I gotta go. Did he go to school at Emory? I don't know. I don't think so. But I'm starting to think that wasn't his real name. Sorry. The yearbook. Put his picture through Proface Finder. Okay, you guys got homework. I'm gonna email some stuff. We did try searching for him previously. And we found some articles that we thought were him, but then it wasn't. Because if it was his name, why was the Social Security forged? Well, the Social Security office ended up sending a letter that confirmed that it was not a real social. Most undocumented. But you're right. If that wasn't his name, wouldn't he put, why would he put his name on the Social Security card and not, I don't know. We might have to think about this tomorrow. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I know it was a quick session, and I wanted to keep it short because I am going to, quick session my ass. It's a 3-hour-long live. What the fuck? Sorry, guys. I thought this was going to be like a 2-hour, okay? I wanted to leave this up for replay because we covered the second police report, and I wanted to leave it public. I do think this is information that's relevant to the series, and we will do a part 2 where we update the whiteboard. But tonight I just kind of wanted to go through the police report and kind of connect the dots in the same manner. I know it's never less than 3 hours. I'll be back tomorrow in the afternoon where we will do the YouTube giveaway for paid members on the Baddies tier. We'll announce the winner and we'll recap. All right. Thank you to everybody that has supported my live streams. I'll get started on a brief, at least a rough draft of it. A shout out to everybody that sent in tips, Venmos, Zelles, making our time productive and worthwhile through this research. And we're not done with the series yet, okay? I did send an email to follow up on the unredacted phone call and records. I should hear back tomorrow or Monday, and I think that will be kind of our grand finale. And then we'll regroup. I also got an approval for the green card files in the Torta case, and an ETA on those files is in about 3 weeks. Okay, so good night. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to end TikTok first, and I'll catch you besties on